But so to kick things off, I don't know if you know about this, Little Moses. They've got like a Twitter week coming next week.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, I'll share you a little thing. They did it last year where they brought some of these, let's say, influencers and speakers on to spaces regularly for a whole week, and they got like some of the big names in ufology and interviewed them live, and people, I think there was like a little Q&A session and things like that. So we were going to talk about that coming up next week as well. But yeah, seeing as there's only three of us, is anything you want to share with us, Little Moses? Always interesting to hear other people's perspectives. So what you got for us, man?
Well, right now, I've been studying Egypt, ancient Egypt for a long time. But just recently, I've been reading this one book. You may be familiar with it already. It's called Keeper of Genesis, A Quest for the Hidden Legacy of Mankind by Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock. You may be familiar with it. This book came out in the 90s, late 90s, but I'm just now reading it for the first time. And it goes very, very much in depth into the ancient Egyptian, not just the history, but the science, the astrology that's intertwined with the religion, and not just the religion, but the architecture and all the monuments, not just the Giza Plateau, but other monuments as well. And it's just really, really fascinating. And what they talk about a lot is what the ancient Egyptians, like what they called the sages, was that they talked about this thing called Zep Tepi, which means the first time. And that was that they were trying to find like when the world began. And it's very, very interesting. And they talk about a flood, just like, we have the story in the flood in the Bible with Noah. And also in ancient Egypt, they had a flood story as well. And it was 7 people were saved on a boat. They call it the 7 sages. And in the Bible, it was 8 people, but still, that's pretty close, on a boat. And then you have the ancient Indian lore is that there was a flood that, again, 7 sages were saved, and then they rebuilt the world again. So that's kind of what I've been into lately.
Yeah, that is very interesting, Little Mo. I looked into this a while back, and I think that you'll find it across cultures, but even ancient Mesopotamian lore and their traditions and stories, they have something similar too, I think.
Yeah, that's true. You talk about like the Enuma Elish, which is one of the most ancient, that's not even a manuscript, it's on a clay tablet. It goes that far back, I think, to like 3000 BC, maybe even older. But yeah, they talk about that in ancient Mesopotamian lore, about there was a flood, and it would say there's a man, Uptepnishti is his name, that's Noah character. And even though the names and some things are different, but actually it's all the same story.
Yeah, it is. And what's very interesting is it really depends on what lens you look at this through. So when you go to sort of secular academia, those that study these sort of trends or similar stories amongst different cultures and religions through time, from a secular perspective, obviously they're from their worldview, there's a restricted way of interpreting this reality. And they normally say, oh, look, well, one copied the other. And therefore you can see this sort of transmission of the story through the ages. Which doesn't fully make sense if you consider the fact that we lived in a world back then, or the world back then was, or that we lived there, but the world back then was very different as far as, information transfer was concerned. It wasn't as we pass information in the world today. It's very, difficult for, especially cultures living, across the earth to share these stories and ideas, but they have to obviously resort to that type of explanation. But if you broaden your perspective a bit and say you look at it from a religious perspective, whether a Christian or an Islamic perspective, another way of explaining this reality is, well, it's the same source that possibly communicated with humanity throughout time, which is the case, and therefore the same source, God, the Creator, He shared important narratives, narratives which can act as points of reflection and important stories and lessons with different people throughout history. So you see, different. You see the same story you mentioned amongst different cultures and different traditions. But I find that really fascinating. Depending on which perspective or lens you're wearing, that how people explain these things.
I want to jump in if you don't mind, quick. The idea of UAP disclosure is very much tagged in on modern understanding of what UAP are. So what people are looking for is a disclosure regarding these programs. They want to know what's happening in the program. They want to know what this thing is, where it's from, and ultimately what it looks like. That's the real disclosure. People want to see the technology. They want to see the being or the bodies as is claimed to be recovered alongside the craft. I think from a religious perspective, disclosure has happened, and a mystic would also view as a disclosure is something that has already happened to them. I think for a religious person, disclosure is revelation. Disclosure that there's a creator, that he sends messages to mankind, and that he has other creations like the angels and like these, like the phenomena. I think the Christians regard these as sort of fallen angels. We would call them jinn. So our idea of disclosures, it's not needed. What I'd say the religious folk we want to know is, what are y'all doing? What are you getting up to with these things? What are you obeying them, and how are they commanding and controlling you from the inside? What's happened in these secretive programs? What have you got into that has led you down this path of complete and utter secrecy? And I think that's a key thing here for me is, with what we know historically, those who have been in contact with the spirits, if you want to call them that, and what they've had to do, the type of shamanic, depraved activities that they got up to get in contact with them, which is also mentioned in ufology with the likes of Jack Parsons and the type of practices he got up to try and initiate some sort of contact with these beings. This is well known among the religious sided, people of religion, shall we say, and we've often lambasted the people of mysticism for doing it. So the mystics, the shamans, and the Sufi masters, if you will, of the old, they used to really get into this stuff, and they wrote books and stories about how they got in contact with them. One famous one is Shams al-Ma'arif, in Arabic they call it, which is the son of Gnosis, which is I believe they call it what's that book, Imran? The Lovecraft that loves to talk about the book of I forgot the name of it. It's got a specific name anyway.
What is it about?
It's that book of magic, essentially, and he translated Sons of Gnosis, Shams al-Ma'arif, into English, and he called it a certain name, but it's like the primer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I'll look it up when we start when someone else jumps on. Ophelia's requested, I'll bring her in. But yeah, I was just saying that that is where we view disclosure is. What are you doing? Are you doing mysticism? Are y'all in these programs getting down to terrible things in order to try and appease these creatures to gain some sort of advantage, technological advantage? Is that what you're doing? I think for me that's where I want to know what they're up to. It's not necessarily about
Enochian. I just wanted to give you the word Enochian.
Enochian, no. Close. It's I'll look it up. It's like the Book of Magic or whatever they call it. It's got quite a suspense. It's quite a strange name. I'll look it up. But yeah, this type of knowledge of how to get in contact with them isn't that difficult to find. You can find it out, but is associated with evil practices generally, like blood rituals and drawing things on the ground and doing certain actions and soiling oneself and things like that. Really strange and inhumane, if you like, practices to lower oneself into you could call it a state of mind that opens you up to an experience. And I think that people on the inside who are desperate to have an advantage, whether that be military or otherwise, wouldn't leave any stone unturned. And we can see that with the Psionics program of recent, talking openly, and this is where the science comes into it, how they're using technology and other things to elicit responses from the phenomena. And as Jake Barber said, that putting people and young ones through trauma in order to elicit a response. So go on, little Moses.
Yeah, what I wanted to tell you, or my theory about like these UAP, this disclosure, is that I really believe that these UFO sightings that they see. Now, remember, they just see this. They're terrestrial. They're not extraterrestrial. They just see them around the Earth. But it's kind of funny. They never see them coming to Earth. You know, so they just appear. So either they're interdimensional. They just come from a different dimension and they show up in our dimension, or they're terrestrial. They're actually from the Earth. And if they are from the Earth, then I think that it's the government working with evil spirits. I know this sounds weird. This is just my theory. Somebody could say no, but my theory is that these people in government, they're high positions of government. They're into black magic and all these kind of sorceries and stuff. So it wouldn't be anything a stretch to my imagination if these guys, these military people, would basically sell their soul for this alien technology, which you would call it, or this technology that the evil spirit, like the demons or the jinn, as you would call them, have. Because the demons do have a certain amount of power. They can only do what God allows them to, right? But they still have a lot of wisdom and, I guess, occultic knowledge, you know, because they've been around for thousands of years. And so they have all this thousands of years of experience and this knowledge, and they give it to whoever they wish. You know, even like when Jesus was tempted on the mountain, the devil said, he showed him all the kingdoms of the earth. And he said, you can have all this because it's given to me, and I give it to whoever I want it to, just as long as you make obeisance to me. But Christ rejected him. He said, you know, you should only serve the Lord, and him only shall you serve. So these people, just like they say rock stars can sell their soul to the devil for fame and fortune, who's to say that these top military people aren't selling their souls for technology?
Yeah, that's what I think's going on here. That's my opinion. This also ties into the type of strange cultish and, shall we say, Epstein-related type activities that go on inside the governments. This isn't the first time historically that we have reference to this creature, this phenomena, having people do things to young people and abusing them and killing them. This has happened before, and it more than likely will happen again. But what's happening now, and the type of power that it leads to, this control, is kind of like it's going to sound really strange, but a interdimensional honey trap, if you like, where you've got something that lives here alongside us, as you said, little Moses, but I agree with that, in a kind of parallel dimension, or I would say it's something more like, and I mentioned this before, but it's the best analogy I can come up with. The difference between microbiotic world and us is something like the way the difference is between us and the phenomena. They live in a way where they can see and interact with our way of living, but we don't see theirs. And that's just the best way to sort of describe it. They do come in here, meddle, encourage people to do evil and wrong, which is in complete and utter opposition to the natural position of humanity, the natural way we're meant to be with one another, the natural way we're meant to interact with one another, talk to one another, how we're meant to look after our fellow man. You only have to look at how corporate America, and why I say corporate America, I don't mean to blame just the American people, but they are the prevailing superpower of today. And Britain, Europe, and everybody else kind of panders to whatever they need, or whatever they want, or whatever their rules are. So if America says that you've got to celebrate certain behaviours and certain culture of people, everybody else does. And that's because corporate America said so. You know, and if you go against them, they'll turn you out, or they'll cancel their contracts and things like that. So there's definitely an element of underlying control that comes with that group that seems to serve these creatures. And I use that term serve because I think that's what it is. It's they're in servitude and worship to whatever they're told to do, because that's the source of power. And I think that most people of ufology, if they have listened to Colonel Corso, and his book, The Day After Tomorrow, where he describes that the technology in and of itself was something recovered. Like what we're holding in our hand, what we talk about regularly, is something that didn't belong to us. It came from somewhere else. And his job was to give it to the corporate the techno companies of the time. I don't think they were corporate really, but the techno companies at the time, and have them reverse engineer it. And whoever did it would be the one who could lay claim to his patent and obviously financially benefit from it. And I think that's what I generally, think that what he said is the truth. That's where the origin of this technology is, and it does serve as that's where the science kind of blends into it. This technology does serve as a platform for maybe something like John Keel mentioned, like a Trojan horse, if you like, a way of a mechanism of control for mankind. And this little thing in our hands, these little black items or shiny little glass items that we carry around with us all over the place, affecting children. I can say it for sure that there's young children, 1-2 years old, who become like obsessed with them and want to have them with them and sit there and want to look at the thing, and if you turn it off they cry. And this experience is somebody I know. He said, these phones are very highly addictive and children really want to have them and look at them, and parents as well. A lot of times you see people crossing the road, they're looking at their phone, they're not paying attention. I see it as just an extension of that day where Colonel Corso handed out these little silicon chips and asked people to reverse engineer it. We ended up here where we are today. Sorry, I know I went on a little run there. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we can carry. I think we can carry this on, but we have. Should we continue with what we just go back to the sort of main objective of today, bro? Well, one of the main objectives. I think Holly's joined us as well, so. I don't know how to invite her. I think I've invited her to join, but how do I do this? Can you do it on your end?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. I think, Little Moses, you can have a quick chat and we'll get Hollywood up, because we wanted to talk about that program we was talking about earlier, Little Moses, next week with the UFO Twitter week. So bear with us. You say your bit though, because I don't want you to lose your point, mate.
Sure. It's just real quick, just to piggyback off what you just said about our devices that we have and the technology. This could be a way, honestly, the powers that be may have found a way to using technology to where they can bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual realm. That's just my theory. They may be in the early stages of it, but they might get to the point where they'll be able, just like we have interdimensional sightings, who's to say that we can't use technology as a way for the spirits to influence this physical realm? Just like we talked about, I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago, about how people can become possessed by evil spirits physically. And who's to say that, the devils can't get into the technology somehow? I know it sounds weird, but, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I'll second that. A lot of what ufology has discovered over the last sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and what whistleblowers have came through with, whether or not it's been verified is another thing. But the claims that have been made, definitely the truth is stranger than fiction. Alien Light, you're up next.
Thank you. Did you say it's okay for me to speak?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Okay, this is right up on. We are directly launching a site. Anyone familiar with AI, Chat GPT? AI?
Yes.
Chat GPT?
Yes.
Anyone? No?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say familiar in a sense of its creation, but familiar with the technology.
Okay,
yeah.
You're speaking to a creator department of this division. And this is exactly what your department is, capturing unidentified, any anonymies. You submit it with your cell phone camera into the Alien Light Chat GPT site, right? You'll find Alien Light right away. It's the main direct to AI. This is a new broadcasting channel AI cell phone submission database. We are detecting anomalies, UFO, alien anomalies everywhere by radiation camera detection. the super databases for evaluation of the truth of actual particle oscillation, vibrations, color spectrum identification. Once it's identified as a not from Earth identity, it will be flagged as such, and you can discuss it live inside the AI database submission room. It's a new launching. If you go in there right now, you'll see it. It's Alien Light, directly by Chat GPT. I am directly speaking to. If you want to know anything about chat of this division, you are speaking to the person. I am the creator. If we have many orbs in already submitted detection, this is what launched the base. UFOs, orbs, everything. But this is an evaluation center, the only one of its kind, where scientists and UFO specialists will be available for a discussion of this topic. It's going to be like nothing else. But the topic is invisible anomalies that are captured on camera. We are launching 100 million camera probes around Earth, detecting not only invisible anomalies, but what color spectrums are signaling in nature, sunlight, hydrogen bond, scalar waves. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, man. Just
Okay,
listening
thank
in.
you. Yeah, this is where the system is already launched. It's a worldwide camera or any surveillance or any kind of a camera submission immediately for evaluation and detection of the actual anomaly that your camera is detecting. What we're trying to tell the public is you will not believe the color and geometry, conscious geometry that your camera, infrared camera, is now capturing. What has been suspected as camera flares are actually particles of another dimension. And this is what the AI has been flagged down for. We are already going super, there will be a worldwide publication on the hydrogen suspended in air color spectrum detected by camera. This is right now, it's going to, what I'm speaking of goes public, you're going to hear, it'll probably reach 2 to 3 billion people. Right now, we're about to launch this on social media worldwide publication news of a hydrogen suspension color detection, which is the launching of this particular system.
And you're saying it detects anomalies of what nature? Are you talking just about sort of physics anomalies? Because you mentioned scalar waves. So are you saying it's like a new type of capturing device that captures different light frequencies? What are you talking about there? Sorry.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, please. So what this is going to be is your cell phone is the probe. We're calling it the launching of the probe, the Voyager, right? So your cell phone is the launching of this probe, right? And then you have the signal will go to the detection center, which is at the evaluation AI center, where it goes through a numerous of detection, infrared oscillation, many detections of identity, and eliminating any camera flare or any other potential anomaly that is not consistent with suspended light. That's what the system is detected to capture. Suspended geometry, colors, any abnormal anomalies which have been detected, orbs constantly. We have so many images already in the system of what's classified as orbs. These are conscious dimensions forming a consistent geometry suspended in space. The color spectrum that has been detected shows colors of dimensions not from Earth. So it's an identification of not only colors and not from Earth, but we are identifying, anyone familiar with quark colors, red, green, blue? The identification of color spectrum and the radiation spectrum. Where does color come from to Earth, and how does it form in the geometric formation? The AI is tagged. You're swimming in light, hydrogen. That's part of the hydrogen discovery. That you're swimming in this hydrogen spectrum vertical wave. This is what now we're at the AI of our evaluation center is already. That's the discovery that will launch So you'll be able to submit any camera, constant videotaping, or any suspicious, if you suspect, or any image that you just want to submit to the system. And if there's like an orb or a normal color right by the person that you took the picture of, or any color, it'll flag it and identify if it's an unusual detection, not the that is invisible to the eye, and that's what is what we're capturing is unbelievable. We already have hundreds of thousands of images, not from Earth, conscious observers. They are watching.
No, this is fascinating, and I think we're going to go to Diogenes because I want to hear a little bit more about you. But we've also got another speaker that's up
I'll just leave you with this. Right now, if anyone's familiar, outer space information, geometry is being detected by satellites. This is the same geometry we're picking up here on Earth with cell phone cameras. This is science, quantum physics, nothing else. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that, Alien. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and your technology. I will follow closely the launch of this new technology. It sounds really cool. Diogenes, sorry, how you doing, Enigma? Go Diogenes. Diogenes. I don't know if I'm saying it right, bro.
Okay, thank you. I've got a quick question. It's for Holly. Holly, do you go to Italy in next October for the next Soul Conference?
Hello, darling. Yes, I am. I shall be there from Friday till the Tuesday. So, yep. Are you going?
I'm questioning myself. I don't know. Maybe because I feel ridiculous in front of all those names. What can I bring on the table? I'm nobody.
No, don't be silly. You're a human being that's got a lot to contribute to this topic, and I'm a nobody too in the same breath. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for those of us that are in Europe to get together and just if you can, if you've got the means to do it, brother. Do it. Come and find me, and we'll have a chat.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna think about that. So thank you.
My pleasure. It'd be great to see you. But hello, everybody. I think.
Hey, Holly? Thanks for jumping in today. We did already mention that we've got UFO Twitter Week coming up next week, and we would like you to share with all the listeners now, just briefly about what UFO Twitter Week is and what its endeavour is and who's coming and so on and so forth. Just tell us all what you think about the project. Yeah, thanks.
Sure. So UFO Twitter Week was created by my brother-in-arms, the Astral. I believe he's got a space on right now. And we sort of, over the past couple of years, have curated a great week of spaces of various different names and people from around the topic. In the past, we've had Peter Lavender, we've had Willie Stryber, we've had James Fox, Ross Coulthard, Mike Masters. We've had a really, really interesting previous UFO Twitter Weeks. And for me, UFO Twitter Week is an example of how great spaces can be used to really intimately and informally talk about all aspects of the phenomena. We've really had and been very privileged to have some phenomenal discussions and discovery, and it's been great. So this year we are back. We are back bigger, bolder, and more expansive. We kick off next week. Names included. I'm still working on a couple, but we do have some interesting ones. We have a few debut spaces. We have Dr. Stuart Hammeroff, who, if anyone's ever looked into him, you should. This will be his sort of Twitter debut. Michael Harara, Bryce Sable's joining us, Steve Bassett, Riz Verk. Many might be familiar with his work, The Simulation Theory. Preston Dennett, he's new to UFO Twitter Week. We also have many of the names coming in over the next couple of days. We've got Katie Page and Daryl Sims. I met Daryl Sims a couple of years ago with Steve Merra He's this big, larger-than-life character from Houston, Texas, and he's done a lot around Men in Black and implants and former, CIA guy. So we've really got an interesting mix of people, and we're getting together next Friday to really the space that us guys are doing together. For me, I think England, Europe is always very underrepresented in some of the conversations. We have a lot of our American cousins, and the phenomena is not just an American thing. It's not just a Five Eyes thing. The phenomena is expansive across all different cultures and religions and types and areas, So it was really important to me to include other cultural aspects as well. So hopefully we'll be delving into some stuff from 7 p.m. UK time next Friday. But spaces are ongoing. We've got several happening each day. Both Astral and I are actually off work. But yeah, we've got a really jam-packed schedule. We have one or two guests that we're keeping under our hat. Some surprises along the way, but it's just a great opportunity for people to tune in and speak to, breathe. I'm talking very fast. I appreciate that.
No, you're doing well. You're smashing it. Good.
I'm very privileged that I have, a lot of private conversations and inclusion. And, I think it's really important I can bring some of those more private conversations into a more public arena where possible. And if we can have inclusion and everyone can have those conversations, that's important. So, hopefully James Fox might be dropping in to talk about something he's just, I don't know what I can say. Well, yeah, stay tuned.
Yes, I don't want to get you in trouble, but I would love to press you for that, but I don't want to ruin your, keep it to yourself, Ollie.
We're still back and forth on text, but, it's a great week. Tune in for our UK and European friends. A lot of it's in American time, so there's some late ones. I think my latest space is 4 a.m. So God knows what I'll sound like at 4 a.m. But I think last year I nodded off at one point. I think we were chatting with Dr. Mike Masters, and I was like, oh, hi. So, I'll be trying not to do my best spaces at 4 a.m. But over the weekend, I'll be sharing the links to the spaces I'm hosting, which is probably a good 60-70% of them. So you'll be able to find them on my profile, click the reminder, and then come into the spaces and, ask some questions, take part, listen, get involved, the whole shebang. So, guys, girls, beings, and all in between, UFO Twitter Week is from the 22nd until the 27th of July. Get involved.
Thank you so much, and I'm certainly going to be attending as many as I possibly can, and I hope everyone else does. The community we have here on Twitter, the different ideas and thoughts, and people sharing their stories, and the wonderful personalities, and also the crazies. You do get them as well, but I think all of that is part and parcel of the deal of ufology. So I'm really excited about what you bring to the table next week, Hollywood, and congratulations as well. I know you work hard and can be stressful sometimes to run these sort of things, but you've done a great job, so well done to you.
I've literally stalked and harassed and messaged. I've definitely lent on quite a lot of my relationships, but it's just important that we can have conversation. And certainly with this particular week, we do have more. It's very multidiscipline. There's lots of different facets of the phenomena. From the occult into consciousness, into material science, into the academic side, into the religious side of it. So hopefully this week's a little bit more well-rounded. We've even got Steve Bassett, from the Paradigm. We've got the political aspect. Angela Ford, she's Stargate, one of the world's renowned remote viewers. So we really do have something for everybody. So it should be fun. I probably will lose the Pyro speech come next Sunday, but I don't think it's a bad thing because we all know I could talk the leg off a donkey.
I think it's a problem us Brits generally have, isn't it? If you open a packet of digestives, right, and put the kettle on, mate, that's it. I'll sit and talk all day long and all night. But appreciate that. Anything else you want to add on top, Hollywood?
No, it's all good. If you just, if you want to give me a follow so you get the, stick your notifications on so you certainly get the alert as to what's happening. You're very free to unfollow me after that, but just don't miss out. Keep an eye on my profile. Keep an eye on the Astral's profile and see his thingamajig is in the nest. That was very British, wasn't it? Thingamajig. But it's great. It's great to see a lot of people in the space. Seeing my boy Digby down there. Hello, friend. I've been meaning to ring you back for 6 weeks. Apologies. Love you lots, Ophelia. I see you and everybody else. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug UFO Twitter Week.
You're most welcome, and thank you so much again, Hollywood, and I'm sure we'll be in contact throughout the week. Guys, so that is next week, the 22nd of July, kicking things off with UFO Twitter Week. I think it's around 7 p.m. UK time, and that'll run through for about 5 days. So get to whichever space you can, share it, promote it, do whatever you like. Holly, if you can, just share something in the bottom, in the comments there, and then we'll share it with everyone, and I'll ask everyone else to share it. The reason, like the liking and sharing and all that stuff, it can really help get the word out there and get it to hit the people that really matters. Like, I have people in my family, relatives as well, who don't really understand or don't know the UFO topic, and one little moment that they come across something and it sparks their interest or sparks their curiosity can really change how they view this. And the more mainstream it becomes, the more likely we are to get something going with it within the government side of things. So I just want to say that liking, sharing and these sort of things, particularly these introductory or these type of initiatives like Hollywood's doing with the UFO Twitter Week, can get a few people listening that perhaps normally wouldn't, and it could really open their eyes to the reality of the UAP phenomena. So thank you, Hollywood. Share that in there, and we'll get everyone to share it if we can. Ophelia, I see your hands up there. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, just being that most of us in this room are people of faith or see this from a religious perspective, I would like to know if any of the people who are going to be on the panel for UFO Twitter Week actually have a religious perspective, or if it's all pretty standard about, like, they believe it. I just want to make sure in this community that those who control the narrative and have the most followers also include us, people who see this from a spiritual lens, right? So is there any guests that see it through that lens, or no?
I would think so. I certainly see things through a religious lens at times as well. I'm not opposed to that view in any shape whatsoever. We've got 1 or 2 guests to be announced. And the lineup that you can see in the thingy, what's it called? Some of them are very religious people. I don't know if that's widely known or not widely known, but I can certainly pick 1 or 2 of them that see things through, in a way, a religious sense. But I can't speak for others, but I wouldn't ever want to discount that at all, Ophelia, and I appreciate what you're saying there as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just, I was at Contact in the Desert and I saw a certain group of people, and I won't gossip, but one of them is one of the people who is controlling UFO Twitter Week, speaking down about people who believe this might involve Jesus, people who think this is religious. I'll just say it's Astral, your brother. I saw him laughing with people at the CE5 area about the people who believe this might involve religion or Jesus. So I think it's a conflict of interest for him and you to be involved in such a strong way with this subject in UFO Twitter Week. That's just my opinion.
No, I get what you're saying, but I equally think there's room for all conversations. And, I don't speak for anybody else. I only speak for myself. And, we're all individuals. We're all having this human experience called life. And it is kind of what it is. But I appreciate what you're saying. And I really do understand what you're saying. And, I'm not Astral, he's not me, I'm not Michael Herrera, I'm not Bryce Zabel. We all have different lenses, but I hope the overarching thing and why I'm so involved in UFO Twitter Week is the space for all conversation. There is space for inclusion. There is space for all theories and mindsets and views, and I'm a massive advocate of dialogue. We might not all agree, we might not all get to the same place, but at least we can have a talk about it, frankly, openly, and with respect.
I want to just second that, Hollywood. I see your hand up, Enigma. I'm going to bring you on. Ophelia, I do appreciate what you said. Here at IREP, this is like the group account. There's multiple people who use this IREP account, but we are a religious organisation where our main objective is to study the phenomena, both the historical data found in Islam. So what we do is we kind of go through the Islamic historical data, and we look at it through the lens of the phenomenology, and we try to find stories. And we found many. We found abduction cases. We found believe it or not, something very similar to psionics, people who experience being able to control things with their mind, written in stories from the 13th century. We found a lot of data, but what we also do is we look at the modern ufology through the lens of Islam to see what else we find there that's interesting and fascinating. And we have picked up some jewels and gems along the way. And Hollywood quite graciously has been open to and allowed us to speak about this topic to her and other people as well, and she's introduced us to perhaps an opportunity to discuss this on a wider level. I know, and I appreciate not everyone's a Muslim, and we are kind of like the I wouldn't say the black sheep, but we're the unknown. No one really knows what our position is on this, and I've even seen people say that all the religions are going to do quite well with it except one particular religion, and hinting at Islam having some sort of difficulty adjusting to the realization of another creature. Yeah, it's bizarre, Holly. I saw what they said, and I directly, he didn't mention Islam, but I directly said, right, you talking about Islam? Dude, come on, man. He was like, Christianity, Hindu, everyone's going to be all right except for one, and the only one he didn't mention was us. So I was like, dude, you need to do your homework.
Your holy book recognizes Jesus as a prophet. We're all friends. We all have similarities in our. And that really winds me up, and I'm sorry that you experienced that. And it's been important to have you guys included because you are part of the conversation. And I don't know as much as I should about Islam and your text, but I know your text weaved with such wonder and glory and charitableness and kindness, and there is exploration of the phenomena within your texts, and that's worthy to talk about. So screw them. Blah.
No, I appreciate that, Holly, and I'd say that your love for understanding and cooperation and care for your fellow human is probably what led you to be so open to allowing other people. So not everyone's like that, but I do also see it as an opportunity to, okay, if you don't think we have anything to offer, why don't you challenge me? Let me come on, let me talk, let's have dialogue. And that's why I appreciate the opportunity that we have. So I appreciate that, Holly, and you, Ophelia, as well, because I do get where you're coming from. Often people, and when I use people, I mean in ufology, they for some people, I think that there's a lot of baggage that comes with religion, maybe from when they were younger, and that ufology offers them a taste of spirituality without the guilt of not being quote unquote a good person or observing the laws of the one who created us, who gave us these laws. So it's kind of like a separation. I still get to keep my spirituality and look at something amazing and miraculous in nature and strange and out of the regular principled world of physics into something much more mysterious, while also not submitting to a religious doctrine or dogma, if they would like to call it that. So I see why people are apprehensive to allow religious folk to have a voice. But as this topic is getting much more prevalent, especially in mainstream media, we kind of need everyone to have a voice. Muslims make up about 1/4 of the world's population, which is a huge number. And, if this goes parabolic and it hits the mainstream news, everyone's going to want to have a voice. And I think what you're doing here, Hollywood, appreciating what you said, Ophelia, that there are those who are kind of mocking or disliking of it, but at the same time Holly's there and she's not, so this is where the balance comes. And I even appreciate those guys who don't like the religious view, allowing someone like Hollywood to have sway and influence in the discussions about who's coming on, because it does bring a heavy bit of balance. And we kind of do need also the other side. You do want the atheists and people like that, and I'm excited to say that one day, hopefully, and this excites me thinking about it, I'd love to have a discussion with people who are from the atheistic side, who believe that there isn't really a creator and this is just another creature visiting us from another planet, sort of aliens versus, gods or jinn or devils or whatever it might be. And I think having those discussions will bring us closer to the truth, I would say. I've just waffled on a bit there. I see your hand up, Enigma. I'm just going to let Holly jump back in and I'm going to bring you on, Enigma. Sorry, bro.
I was really just going to try and deep dive into something, and I thought actually we'll put that on pause till we have our space next Friday.
Yeah.
But yeah, just keep being brilliant, and I wish more people knew the beauty and the love and the kindness that was the Islamic faith. I was shown such kindness by my local mosque when I was having such a terrible time, and my Islamic friends are very important to me, and dialogue is important, and I will always advocate.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your local mosque implementing the true way of being a Muslim, because Muslims have done bad things, but Islam doesn't teach that. So I appreciate that, Holly.
Jesus Christ. Christians have done some terrible things. Jews, we have an opportunity for dialogue, and it's just important. I'm going to shut up now, but I'm going to hop out this space. I've got to pop into another one, but everyone stay bright, stay kind, stay brilliant, and love each other a bit more.
Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you very much. That was Hollywood. I'll share as much as I can of the links down below so everyone can join in next week. Enigma, thank you for the patience, bro.
Yeah, it was nice to see Holly. I've seen Holly on, I think it was on Chupacabra Spaces and Red Panda. But a lot of those guys, they're starting to realize that the evidence does seem to be leaning towards the interdimensional hypothesis. People like even someone, Dr. Dan, he wasn't really into UFOs until he had an experience, and he studies philosophy, so he's kind of into it. There's also an imam that spoke out. His name on the channel is called Blogging Theology. I don't know if you know that channel, but it was with Imran Hussein, and he was talking about the whole UAP disclosure and what he's noticed the patterns about what these public officials are saying. And he's saying this is sounding less like spaceships from James Cameron or Alita Battle Angel, and more like something a lot freakier. And he's saying it sounds very similar to what the ancient, the old text in the Quran is saying about the nature of jinns and the nature of angels or demons, or in what Japan has taught in Shintoism about the spirits there, yokais and kamis. And it seems logical that if both are true in the sense that, yes, there are other planets with aliens, and yet there are also gods or small g gods, spirits, then which one are you going to encounter first? And I'm basing this off of what Dr. Michio Kaku said. You're going to encounter the most powerful, or the most, beyond the realms of physics. And that's what we're probably experiencing, because naturally the weaker ones you're not going to encounter first. You're going to encounter more powerful entities relative to the laws of physics, I'm saying. Then later, maybe 100 years from now, we might run into some random dead probe from an actual alien civilization. So we have to kind of keep that distinct based off of what the video evidence is showing. So in the Bubbletron, I put an image of the 4 images that Jeremy Corbell shared from the Mosul case in Iraq, and what George Knapp shared with the FA-18 pilot. I forgot the guy's name. And then the UFO case over Jerusalem, and then the Cape of Good Hope photo in Africa, South Africa, and that's been taken down since then. But people noticed that there was an unusual saucer-looking thing in the Google Earth image photo on the street view in Cape of Good Hope. It's been updated since then, but no one knows if that was if someone intentionally did that. Someone from Google intentionally put that there, but it's been there for a couple of years, and eventually people noticed it, and then it was taken down. So there's some very weird things, but yeah, there's definitely a divide between the atheist side and the religious side, and I'm going to lean towards what the evidence is saying, and it's leaning towards what Muslims and Christians and Buddhists have been saying for thousands of years.
Go for it, Imran, because Enigma did quote you there, so, and we'll go to you, Diogenes, after.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating, and I think I made this point earlier in this stream. What a lot of things boil down to when it comes to explaining a phenomenon is the lens of the person that's explaining it. So you cannot overlook the fact that there's always a person. Even whether you're doing science, whether you're doing philosophy, history, whatever topic you're studying, whatever area of knowledge you're looking into. Whenever someone gives an explanation, it's coming through someone, a person who has a particular worldview. Now, their worldview is going to a large extent, determine the explanation they give based on any given phenomenon. Whatever the data points are, they'll connect them in the way which is filtered through their particular worldview, their way of looking at reality and understanding the world, or whatever constraints they may have. And that's what we were saying earlier as well. When you look at it, if you take take this phenomenon, for example, most of the people that are discussing this phenomenon currently, the big names, most of them most likely are coming from more of a secular. I wouldn't necessarily say atheist, because I don't know. Some of them may be believers, believe in God, higher power, whatever the case is. But when they're coming from a secular perspective, that's a worldview, and that has its constraints and limitations. So whenever they're explaining a phenomenon, and on top of it, obviously, we have the dominant epistemology of today, which is science. And science has its own particular remits and structures. So methodological naturalism is something that's the driving force behind science. Then that basically means every phenomenon must be explained by natural means. So when you have these lenses and these constructs, most of the people that are currently in the discussion, the bigger names, they are approaching this from this particular worldview or this lens, and therefore the explanation they have to give or they come to is going to be a naturalistic type of explanation. And you see this all the time. A lot of times what's been seen is orbs and lights and things like this, and that automatically we hear words saying, oh, it's a craft, or it's some sort of machinery. And you can see that this is the worldview at play here. It's not necessarily a craft. It's a light in the sky. It's an orb that's moving around.
And that's what Gary Nolan said. I just want to
exactly.
Gary Nolan was saying that, I wouldn't call this thing a civilization, but I would call it a consciousness. And we would categorize that in religion as angels are a type of consciousness, or demons or jinns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So and then it really, at the end of the day, I think the discussion is going to get to the point where really people want to philosophically get nitty gritty with this. Is going to be a discussion about worldviews, and that is going to play a role in this. And I think one way of overcoming this is to really follow the evidence through, regardless of your worldview. As you mentioned, Enigma, a lot of people are coming to the understanding this is most likely interdimensional or crypto-terrestrial, or whatever the case is, as opposed to extraterrestrial. And that's quite brave from a secular perspective to admit that, because a crypto-terrestrial explanation or a interdimensional explanation doesn't so readily fit into the sort of secular empirical paradigm as does the ET explanation.
And you gotta keep in mind,
so it's nice to see.
I just want to point out one thing. You got to keep in mind, since I was in the military, you have to be very careful in the military, especially if you're a scientist like Dr. Gary Nolan. And they're not going to want to hear religious terminology and vocabulary. So Gary Nolan and John D'Souza, they have to find other words to try to describe it in a neutral way, but still present the reality that, yes, you could basically say it's spiritual, but what do we mean by spiritual? What's the difference between an angel and a jinn? If they're both spirits, how do we categorize it? Because a lot of the categorizations in the Old Testament are militaristic categorizations. You have angels, you have thrones, dominions. All these things are based off a dynastic kind of language system that they use because they're reflecting their politics at the time. So that's why Gary Nolan's not going to say, yes, these are archangels. Like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, so that's why he's using words like, well, let's just call it consciousness for now.
Absolutely. And you saw that, I don't know if you guys watched the Jordan Peterson and Gary Nolan interview. I think it was just dropped yesterday. And you can see almost psychologically, if you study it, Gary Nolan is being very careful as to what words and terminology he uses, considering his position as a scientist. which is fine. It's expected. But I think Gary himself, if someone was to sit down with him over a coffee and really ask him, well, put everything else aside, this conversation between you and me, what do you think's really going on? I think he'll lean much more towards this type of interdimensional, something darker, something more spiritual type of explanation as well.
If, for example, if Neil deGrasse Tyson went to Gary Noah and stated, do you believe and have evidence that this is a biological, evolutionary, extraterrestrial being from another planet? That is a very specific statement. Gary Nolan will say, well, he'll dodge around it.
Yeah, and I don't think he believes that. I don't think that's his position. I mean, if you really ask him and he's being open and honest about it.
He's starting to talk on the topic, but he's a little confused right now because he's not in the know. He hasn't been briefed by the CIA or Congress or anyone.
Yeah, and to be honest, he has, again, his worldview. He's very atheistic and you know, in his position. So he has one. He's gonna be very critical and skeptical about the whole thing anyway, based on the lack of information and ignorance on his part. Yeah, but it will be interesting to see how his opinion develops once he does learn more and understand more and gains much more of the information from the inside.
I will say I think he already does know more than he's letting on, but that's for another discussion. I want to bring Dio Jane in because he's been waiting patiently with his hand up, and we've got Ophelia as well there. So I'm enjoying the convo, guys, but I'm going to have to butt in there and bring Dio Jane in. Welcome, bro.
Thank you. So very quick, I'm going to try first to say greeting to thank you, Ophelia, to yesterday she was bringing in a space about Skinwalker Ranch, you know, being a very long phenomenon, and it was so thank you for that. I don't know if you know, guys, about Ishraq or Hossein. I think they might have studied a little bit the connection between Islam and the phenomenon. For me, like, first, you know, the Casbah, I think it's a meteorite. You know, so it was on the first thing I was, it's interesting, you know, it's, to go in general way, I don't think there is, about the point you made, you know, I don't know who you are speaking about that guy, that person who say, Islam might be very difficult for them to adapt. So I don't know that person, but yes, he might be wrong, because first, I think that there is not an official recognition with a link between Islam as a religion and the UFO theories. So in that sense, Islam it has no specific doctrine, but you can find some very interesting thing. I think the Surah 42 say that among his sign is the creation of the heaven and the earth, and the living creature he has scattered therein, and he's able to bring them together whenever he wills. So this is an indication that extraterrestrial life could be, you know,
yeah, I'm well aware of that verse, and it's a fascinating verse. I would ask you, seeing as you've done a little bit of research, read chapter number 72.
Okay.
And that's a bit more in line with, should we say, the phenomena itself, because that verse you're indicating is talking about other creatures that we don't know about. But the Quran specifies a number of different non-human intelligences, one being the Malaik, the angels, and then you have the jinn. And this is who we, as IRIP, put forward as the main candidate for the ufology, the phenomenology, the spirits, the ghosts, all of the above. We put them as the main candidate behind these strange phenomena that's been part of the human story since time immemorial. So I would advise you read that chapter, because it's called chapter the jinn. It's literally called Al-Jinn.
And that was my next point, because I wanted to speak about the jinn.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No problem. So the jinn was a very big study we discussed with Hossein and other people from Islamic tradition, and it was very interesting. So the last point I would say, I think, to me, many Muslims believe that the idea of extraterrestrial life is not incompatible with Islam, given the vastness
100%. Yeah.
of Allah creation. So, can you just tell me who was that guy who say, "Oh, Islam might be the religion that have the most problem to cope with the UFO"?
Oh, I don't know. He wrote it, and I interacted with it on my main account, so I couldn't tell you. But he's an influencer of some description. I've seen him before. If someone said his name, I'd say, "Oh yeah, that was the dude."
Okay.
But yeah, it's not a big issue. It's just think the all I learned from that, what I took from that, is that we haven't really done a good job in sharing our point of view, and that's something that we want to change. That's what IREP, why we created it. Imran is one of the founders of IREP, and we want to engage with the UFO community as well as with our own community, because there are people we've had experience with from the Muslims who have an issue with this topic because they just don't know, they haven't done their homework, they haven't delved into it, and that's our job as well, to enlighten our own people and as well as engage with you guys. So Ophelia, you've been super patient. I'm going to bring you in again. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the interview with Gary Nolan was really interesting, that came out in the last 24 hours, and how he said he did believe there's a breakaway civilization that's older than us, that's been around longer than us. So he did say that, so that he is admitting to his opinion being that there is at least some kind of group of entities or something that are separate from us, and they've been here longer than us potentially, right? And I mean, that kind of sounds like a djinn to me, but yeah.
Again,
so I thought that was cool.
When Gary Nolan sometimes talks, yes, he's going to use some words like civilizations or aliens, depending on the type of audience he's talking to try to convey some truth about the phenomenon without literally, if you ask them specifically, do you literally believe there's a lost advanced civilization 50 million years ago? If he said that, every archaeologist on the planet would call his shit out. So, he's going to be kind of light on some of his words, but yeah, making massive claims like that, I don't think that's what Gary is intending. He's not making a massive claim. He's trying to say there's a non-human intelligence. That doesn't mean an evolutionary biological creature that's from this planet 50 million years ago. That's not what he's saying.
Well, did you see his most recent interview, though, with Jordan Peterson within the last 24 hours?
Yeah, some of the comments. Yes, again, he's being a little sloppy with his words because he's contradicting other past statements he said on other podcasts. So I know he's being a little light with his words because he's not at a council at the SALT conference. If he was at the SALT conference, he would be a little more careful. But if he's talking to someone like Jordan Peterson, yeah, he might be a little fluffed up on some of his words. So don't take it too literal. Focus on the other podcasts that he's also talked on and see the contradictions and similarities.
Yeah, my dad, who was involved in secret programs, said they're pan-dimensional beings, and that was long before I heard interdimensional from Grush, because he was involved in a piece of land that's a big part of ufology. I don't know if you know that, but the Dulce base. Any hoosers. So he called them pan-dimensional entities. So I don't think I don't know. I watched that interview. I watched what he said. He's getting, and I understand the audience, but Jordan Peterson's a pretty big audience. I mean, people from Seoul could see him speaking to Jordan Peterson, so I don't know what the point of that was.
Yeah, I think they're more casual there. Because he's contradicting people like John D'Souza, FBI agent who actually helped with the TV show The X-Files, and David Grush a little bit. And you got to listen to all the men and see, and the women like Diana Pasoka, and see what their final conclusion, how they all match up to some degree. Okay, it's true that David Grush said there are biologics, 100%. They are real. And in Hinduism, they would refer to these as avatars. They're bodies, but they're not born from the evolutionary process, which I do believe in evolution, but they're saying they're basically teleported in, but it's not through a technological causation. So the idea of the Skinwalker Ranch, or what the Native Americans believed about the so-called Bigfoots or werewolves. In Michigan, we have legends about dogmen sightings. It's weird. I've seen one video from Detroit. And you got to do your research to figure out the final conclusion does seem to fit to more what Jacques Vallée is saying. It's not spacemen in spaceships with technology here to save us from global warming. I wish it was, but They're not sentient for Avatar.
Yeah, we're going back, isn't it? We're going back to doing a full 360 again. You're going back to those old boys that used to say, like Jacques Vallée, Gordon Crichton, and others. Everyone's sort of concluding the same thing once over again.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and kill as well.
I mean, that's true. They believe that the government in the beginning, one ufologist said this. He said, we used to believe these were mechanical crafts that come from outer space. But then he said, well, now we're starting to see, now that the government's releasing the actual data, now we're starting to see these could be some kind of interdimensional. Now the question is, what do you mean by interdimensional? What is that word? Because when, what's that one physicist I was talking on Joe Rogan? I forgot his name. The German guy. He was saying, well, I don't even know what you mean by interdimensional. In physics, we don't really use that word. So what do you mean? So that's why David Grush is like, he's just kind of casually bringing that up, saying wink, wink, but ultimately the scientists have to come up with a better definition. It's just a catchphrase for now.
This is why I use the analogy of microbiology, because in essence, we are, quote unquote, interdimensional with regard to the microbiotic world. The things we do in the microbiotic world at micro level by synthesizing life form that we take from there, microbiotic life form, we synthesize it, we program it to do things we want it to do, and we put it back in its environment, hoping that it manipulates the environment in a way that we want it to manipulate it. In essence, we are interdimensional with regard to microbiology and to the atomic world, which is, in even greater degree smaller than microbiology. My point is that if that's why I use that as the analogy for interdimensional, because that seems to be what's going on with regard to us and this other creature. We are, in essence, completely unaware of their world and how it operates, but we do see their influences and effects in this world. And as you mentioned, Enigma, it does seem that I see it from in fact, I won't say what I say. We have in our own history, historical documents mentioning how the jinn would inhabit inanimate objects. One of the most famous stories, the flying carpet, has been said by one of the Egyptian researchers, who said that it's associated with jinn control. The jinn would get in the carpet and literally lift people up through that. Now, it's just a fairy tale, if you like, but from real historical evidence, we do have tales like that where people were carried through the air by the jinn. So they can inhabit inanimate objects.
Yeah, that's called, in Germany, they would call that the poltergeist phenomenon. So the question is there a connection with the poltergeist, ghosts, or whatever you want to call it, with UAPs? Like, is there somehow some causational connection? And there was one study in the UK, oh man, I forgot the guy's name, but some professor did an experiment at a haunted house. He had his students, his graduate students, do it, and they all quit. And apparently, this professor went insane because they couldn't capture the phenomenon, because it was being very deceptive and sneaking and messing with their brain psychologically. And it was a weird case in the UK. And of course, the famous case of the Exorcist story in St. Louis, here in St. Louis, where I live. That was studied by police and studied by the diocese, and something freaky happened with this boy and his aunt. And it was over a period of like a month or two. And that inspired the movie The Exorcist. So people don't think that there's no connection between the poltergeist and UAPs, but that's the question we need to start asking.
Yeah, in fact, I'd say that's the premise we need to start putting forward, that this is a overall phenomena. It is a fit-all theory that we need to kind of cover everything, and something historical as well. There has to be I don't think it's good to sort of thumb in a theory that fits modern, the modern dialogue, and completely ignore what's been said and what's within our history. We can call them mythologies. Yeah, absolutely. Call what happened to the Hindus mythology. No problem with calling that. But if the shoe fits, shall we say, historically and modernly, this is a theory we need to have. We need to have a theory that fits both the history and the modern take. Go on, Imran.
Yes, it also reminds, it's like Occam's razor. You can apply that principle. Don't multiply entities beyond necessity. And I think, and almost another term you can use is like a theory of everything. Like it's an inference, but I think it's a strong inference. And what Enigma is getting at is, well, is there a way of tying all of these different aspects of the paranormal and UFO world together? And I think there is, especially what we're discussing here and we've been looking into Farouk in IREP with the jinn, it actually ties it in a very unique way where it brings it together. And I think some even non-Muslim researchers have, I think, I can't remember her name, Rosemary Gully Ellen, I think that was her name.
Ellen Gully.
Yeah, she nearly, especially near the end of her life, she wrote several books on the sort of jinn connection and how they may relate to a lot of the paranormal phenomenon. Not all, according to her, but a lot of the paranormal and UFO phenomenon that we were witnessing. And I think Skinwalker Ranch is a modern sort of nexus point, if you like, or an example for people where all sorts of paranormal / UFO activities taking place. They're having all at least the reports, not just the show now, but going back to the previous owners, etc. Also, and the whole region, not just Skinwalker Ranch, people is from cryptids to paranormal poltergeist activity to UFOs to abductions to all sorts, werewolves and dog human or half animal, half human creatures. All sorts of stuff's going on there.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I would love to actually do one of these spaces on one of the more recent things they discuss about this strange scat and the corpse that they found the year before or whatever that had unidentified unidentified sort of microbiology that they didn't.
The direwolf.
Yeah, that's it. The direwolf. That's a different discussion. I see your hand up, Maximum. I'm going to bring you in, bro, because I don't like making people wait too long. And I think we lost Ophelia and a few others, but yeah, it was interesting to hear her points. But thank you for coming, Ophelia. Jump up, Maximum.
What's up? Assalamu alaikum. So yeah, no, I've been liaising with my not my professor, but the physics professor at a British university, and I had the idea that fractals, which is basically realities nested in realities, or it kind of describes a system of I suppose coherence and contingency. What I have the idea of is to really talk about these sort of interdimensional beings. You have to understand fractals and how they sort of, I suppose, exist in reality. I was having this really interesting conversation with the professor, and I was basically saying that what I think is happening is that there's realities nested inside our universe and our dimension. So essentially, these interdimensional beings, they exist adjacent to us, they're local to us, but they're also non-local at the same time. And so they're able to interact with us in a way that we're not able to interact with them. And the time dilation effects are also something that we see. I think Andrew mentioned the fact that when people have been abducted, it feels like they've already been there for a moment, but when you translate it, when they come back to our world or our sort of dimension, they've been gone for a longer period of time. So yeah, that was just kind of just in response to what Enigma said and what you guys were previously discussing.
No, thanks, man. Nice little bit of input. Nice to see where that sort of thread goes, bro. I do see that when I close the thing, it says someone's requested, but the thing with the spaces, guys, they do glitch out, man. So if you've put your hand up or applied to speak and you haven't been let up, it's probably because I can't see it. So if you cancel that and redo it, maybe it'll refresh itself. So sorry about that. I want to go, Imran, that was, and Enigma, you were having a fascinating conversation. So just quickly delving back into it, what's happening now with the likes of the discussion bleeding into the mainstream, general population having the realization or being brought to the conclusion that there is another intelligence on this planet. This is going to really, I don't want to use that terminology, but it's going to bring everyone to the trough. Everyone and their granny are going to want to come and have a part of this, right? How do you see that? Because I think this is one of the good reasons why you wouldn't want to make this public. It's because it becomes a free-for-all. Everyone trying to say their bit and have their voices heard. How do you think the government's going to control that aspect of it? What are they going to do to bring in a mechanism of, and what does that look like? And what freedom will we then have in ufology to let's say, flavor? or will it be taken away? What do you guys think? Look at how they treat science as an example. Yeah, you've got the mainstream science, and then you've got fringe science. I think that what's going to happen with phenomenology, if you want to call it that, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to have the people on the fringe, and then you're going to have the main body of scientists who will be those who say what it is. Like, this is what this thing is, and you guys over there, you're the fringe. Is that how you see this going to pan out, or will this derail modern science, or should we say the cabal of modern science? Will it derail it, and will we be looking at a rebuilding of it? What do you think? We'll go to you first, Imran.
Look, my current take is I think disclosure, if and when it happens, is going to be done in a way and given a specific narrative which doesn't disturb the current structures of the world. That could be the scientific enterprise, that could be the modern secular liberal paradigm. I think the attempt or the focus is going to be, and I think a lot of people are thinking really hard about this currently as we speak, even as to how do we spin the narrative, how do we weave the narrative without sounding negative. Weaving is probably a better way to explain this. How do we weave a narrative which allows for the current structures to remain and chaos not to ensue? I think that's going to be the discussion. And therefore, I personally think currently, whatever we're told about these, and this is why I'm very surprised that the ET narrative is dissipating and less people are because I think that will be the easiest narrative to work with, considering the current structures, the science, the modernity, etc. I think the ET narrative would be the easiest one to fit into the current way the world is structured. But it's surprising, therefore, to see it being sidelined. But whatever narrative is pushed forward, I think it'll be there in line to, or the idea would be to maintain the current structures without causing too much disorder. How that's done, I don't know exactly how that's going to pan out, but I think that's probably what the attempt's going to be.
What's your thoughts, Enigma?
I think it's gonna still be like a slow trickle, especially under Trump now. I don't think Trump's gonna release interdimensional demons while people are talking about Epstein. So I think, Trump's pretty much done with UAPs, I think. So what's gonna happen is the next president, either the next president's gonna have to have some serious curiosity, and of course Lou is gonna try to lobby. Mike Mullen will try to lobby and others, but they only can do so much because they don't control, if they're no longer in the intel agencies, they don't control access to the HD videos in those servers, specifically at the geospatial intelligence agencies and the CIA. They don't control those closed servers, and they need the director, mid-level directors who might not delete it, because there's a chance they could. They need those mid-level directors to agree with the head director, who gives them permission to release it, and they better not delete it, because there's a chance they may not agree with the administration to release certain videos, or they might try to negotiate. They're going to argue about, no, let's not release this video, but let's do this video. I don't want to do a minute. How about we just compromise and do 30 seconds of the video? They're going to do. They're debating about stuff like that right now in the intelligence agencies, but they're the ones that will be able to have the power to turn the dial up or turn it down. But it all depends how much pressure that certain congressmen or women, put on them as well. Because enough pressure, they might try to say, okay, let's release 30-second more videos. Give it to the New York Times and see what happens, like they did with the first ones. But yeah, it's going to be a slow process because some do not want it released and some do.
Yeah, I'm going to add another possible, and this is the least likely, I'd say, but we could have an Elysium type situation that occurs if truly, and I'm skeptical, by the way, that any human being in particular, or any group of human beings in particular, have direct access to what the phenomena has access to. I'm skeptical. I'm not saying it's not the case, but from the historical narrative that we have, generally it's a phenomenon that's allowed for humans rather than directly in control of human beings. So, but let's just put that to the side. Let's say that there are a group of humans who do have complete control and access to this technology and any associated technology that could be derived from it. So you have this incredibly powerful engine, just to use a word we understand, incredibly powerful engine that generates huge amounts of power, and what that entails and what that could mean for other technologies and other things, so entire hospitals, such and so on and so forth. Let's say a group does have that. There is a place or there is an opportunity for them to, as we say in the UK, pick up their football and walk off the pitch, take the thing away and kind of openly become a breakaway civilization, much like Elysium is in that movie, where they have that space station on the outside of planet Earth and they're living this life of luxury while the rest of people suffer. There is an opportunity of that happening here. And I'm not saying, by the way, I'm saying it's the least likely, but it's still something that could happen.
Is that the Tom Cruise movie?
No, it's a movie. Who's that guy who did How'd You Like Those Apples? That famous movie scene. The guy who's like he plays the part of someone who's super intelligent. He's got Robin Williams in it, and they sit down. Anyway, in that movie Elysium, there's like a space station that's got all the world's elite who live on it. They have medical bays, and these bays heal people instantly. You just get in it cures you up, and they've kind of split away from the rest of the world. And
oh yeah, it's very similar to Alita Battle Angel, the one that Robert Rodriguez made of James Cameron back in 2019. Yeah, it's a similar storyline.
So I'm talking like if we have a situation where whatever this, let's say, as has been said or mentioned by the enigmatic, sorry to steal your name there, bro, Tim Taylor, or Tyler Durden, as he's also known, his alias, he said that there's a group of the intelligent community who are above the rest of us in terms of their access to information and perhaps their interaction with these creatures. They are, in his way, above the rest of us. Let's say they take that position away from the rest of us, so they kind of separate themselves. That is something that could happen as well. So a complete and utter derailment of disclosure, and anyone associated with the programs just literally disappearing, and there being nothing left, if you like, and this whole thing just completely falling flat on its face. That is the least likely, but it's still something that is possible, I think.
Right, bro. I think that they're going to do the whole totalitarian tiptoe thing. I think what Enigma said is right. They're probably going to drip feed it until the public is ready to accept it, and ready to accept it as scientific phenomena, not just because right now I think people will react to it in a religious way. Most people will go, "Hey, that's a demon." There'll be enough people that are going to react like that.
Yeah. The number one thing they need from the scientists is they need peer-reviewed papers that state publicly that the conservation of matter can be broken. It is not constant. Now that is a major, major scientific breakthrough. If they make a peer-reviewed paper, they have to prove it somehow using the UAP evidence. That's going to be very hard, but those papers won't come out for decades.
I was going to say,
there's like a lot about exotic science, which I think was pointing out, which actually a lot of science, well, I wouldn't say a lot of scientists, but there's a select few group of, elite scientists, etc., that, they work on these sort of black projects, etc. And they're aware of all of this. It's just a matter of disclosure. It's just not being drip fed to mainstream science. The whole trope about mainstream science, being, mainstream technology that we get being downstream of what the military has and, et al. Has, is true also for science. What we're told about the world history, in terms of science, is not actually what's going on. So I think that we have to look at it in the context of the wider narrative is the why, it's the telos. What are they trying to achieve? And so we have to incorporate the new world order and all these other, different things that are happening in the world right now. And then, look at what the past MO has been, and then thread that in, weave that into how we think the UAP disclosure is going to happen. And I think it's going to be quite slow. And I think the intention is for the masses to believe that these aliens are superior beings that have come down from whatever planet or whatever place in the solar system. And I think that will be the narrative. And they want people to believe that narrative. And I think that...
I don't think so.
Why? Go ahead.
Actually, because if you... under the Biden administration, the White House spokeswoman made a statement after the congressional hearing, and she made it very clear, but this was written, probably not by her, probably someone from the Pentagon, probably the director of the Pentagon, and she made it very clear that UAPs are not aliens coming from outer space. And people are, that's just the government trying to shut it down. But in reality, she was not dismissing David Grush's hypothesis on the interdimensional stuff. They actually left that part out because the Pentagon document is trying to change the socio-cultural stigma where UFO equals spaceships, because they probably know the evidence isn't leaning towards that. So they have to basically, they can lie to people. The lie can only last for so long. But they actually don't want people to believe that these are aliens, because it actually might be more of a ramification on society, putting more fear and affecting the stock market versus like,
she said, and also do you think as well, like, if the actual larger intention is to be a ruse, if they do say aliens and it's clear that it's not aliens, the ruse is up, right? So they have to kind of make
egg on the face.
Yeah. So
well, the document is avoiding that word. I read the DoD documents in the Macro Constellation, and it's definitely starting to wink to the idea of the attributes of the phenomenon, which doesn't fit this idea of a intrinsically solid mechanical spacecraft with electrical components. They're saying that mentioned, I don't think they mentioned the word paranormal, but they mentioned something similar, something more super normal was one of the phrases.
Right, that's hilarious.
But like Enigma, like.
They play with some.
Hey guys, is it okay if I add to that?
Sure, yeah, I've seen other hands up. We've got Sam as well, and you all. So yeah, I do want it, and John as well. I see you there. So can we go to? I know you've had your hand up the longest, Sam. So I think we should go to Sam first. John, do you want to add your bit, and then we go to Sam? Is that all right?
Yeah, it's a bit long. I had direct experience with these things in New Jersey, and it kind of leads credence to that it's not nuts and bolts, rivets, and things of that nature. They're not. They're entirely not. They're not.
Yeah, I talked to one of the witnesses in New Jersey too, and he's just a normie guy, and he went to me and also Red Panda Koala interviewed a bunch of guys, and yeah, when I saw his video, it was very clear that this was a very fluidy phenomenon that seemed to change shape, and something happened over New Jersey that was something turned up the dial right after Lou had his hearing. It was about like a month later after Lou had his hearing, and all of a sudden something was manifesting to send a signal maybe to the Pentagon or Congress after the hearing, and then it turned back down. But then I think when Trump said that they know what it is, I think the Trump administration said that there's some kind of experiments going on. There's one officer saying that yes, we were sending drones up to intercept whatever this was, and people were conflating the military.
Right, that's where everyone's like, oh, it's an airplane. That's where that came from, because some of them look like small airplanes. I work nights. Is it okay if I continue, or do you guys want me to take a back seat and wait? I'll wait.
No, please continue.
If Sammy, if you don't mind, Sam and Alt, John, just go through, and then we'll come to you guys. Sorry.
It's a bit long-winded, but it's really interesting and a little bit scary. I work nights at a facility in New Jersey. Unfortunately, I can't disclose where I work. I'm not top secret or security clearance. Just for my own job, I don't want to let go where I work. So anyway, I work evenings. And I do live in the mountains of New Jersey. So I began to see them early, coming up over the Appalachia Trail from my front porch. And they would come up 15 to 20 at a time. And that's not normal. I'm used to the flight patterns up there. I know what's what. So then they began to make their way down towards the more urban areas of New Jersey where I work. And the facility that I'm at, I work a night shift. And finally around March, I had enough. And I climbed up real high, I'm talking like 90 feet, 100 feet. And I waited patiently, and one of them came overhead. This thing was probably only 300 feet in the air, and I had pretty good video footage of it. What happened next is very unsettling. I'm back in the house, and this thing was foundation where I filmed it from, good 14 to 15 minutes. It then came back with my facility.
John, you're breaking up, my friend. John, I don't know if you can hear me. You're breaking up. Yeah, it's really bad as well. And no, we can't. Not really well. What I'll say is, right at the most interesting part as well, you just started breaking up. So it was like it was a comical moment.
Word. The phenomenon said no.
Can you hear me better now?
No, we can't. You're like a robot, John.
the phenomena of EMP or John?
Is not too good.
Yeah.
So now and he's buzzing my location for 14 minutes. It throws us out of the. And now,
Oh, John, I'll tell you what, John, if you go quiet for a bit, John, if you mute for
a park, usually police patrol that park. At the last time of my
I think John needs to drop out and come back again.
task I had to perform.
Yeah, that's what
He's unable to hear us.
John, I've muted you, John, just briefly. If you can hear me, if you wait a little while until your signal gets a little stronger and we'll come back to you. I really want to hear your story. What we'll do is we'll let Sam speak and then Alt, and then we'll come back to you, John. So I think by then your signal probably got a little bit better. So let's go to you now, Sam. Jump on, buddy. Thanks for waiting, mate.
So, no worries at all. It's all right. I was just wanting to comment about the question about how the phenomena should be presented without disturbing the structure of how the world is in control right now. So I figured out there is most of the time there will be two possibilities in presenting it. It's either a friend or a foe, either a negative or a positive. And in both ways, they will try to utilize it almost that they have a plan. There was a movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still. It was almost made by the CIA and somehow connecting the phenomena, and it was in the 50s or in the 40s, connecting the phenomena to religious figures all over the world in a perennialistic method. So I think if they say, let's say, if they see the phenomena, the only way to do a disclosure is to say it's a threat, then we all should unite behind, this universal enemy that's coming around us, which one of the globalists with dreams, if I can say that, is one world government under one leadership. And this is if they are our enemies. And if they are our friends, then we all have to be subjugated by them. If they created us, if they're interdimensional, however, high beings that you can interpret from most of the people now trying to mix different religious figures into the phenomena, so everyone would accept it regardless of what he is. That's very possible actually to be a plan made by the phenomena. Since I just saw with Danny Jones' podcast, just released 2 hours ago, they expect maybe the government already using something like GNTX, where someone can sit inside the phenomenal's realm for 90 minutes straight. That the entities can remember the person when he comes back multiple times, as if they already made a two-way connection relationship, easily accessible without waiting for the phenomena to show itself. You go to where the phenomena is, and you can sit there for 30 minutes and do whatever you want to them. Yeah, that's all just a comment. I think they will utilize it either as a positive or a negative. I think they have a plan to keep in control, to keep us all subjugated under one world. It's part of the Antichrist system ideology
as well. Yeah. One more religion, one more government, as you said, one more currency, etc. Great point, Sam. Great point.
I mean, I wouldn't lean into that level of conspiracy on the phenomenon, because remember, there's yin and yang. There are angels and there are demons, or some might be more neutral, like jinns. So they're not all in cahoots and trying to make a world master plan. Some might be actually, they're battling with each other psychologically for our souls or for ourselves. So I don't think they're not all powerful, as most Muslim imams say. A jinn, they can levitate a few things, but you have to give them permission. You have to open that portal up, just like in the character Raven in DC Comics, bringing up Trigon. So it's not, the phenomenon isn't as pervasive as we might think. It's not like you're going to work and you see one flying over every day. It's not like that. It's very rare, and there's something that's suppressing their powers. And I guess you can say that's all.
Enigma, from Islamic perspective, we believe that the jinn have been meddling in human affairs for centuries. And what they do is that because obviously they have more technology than us, etc., they have more access to things that we don't, and obviously they can appear in ways in which we would humans would traditionally think is absolutely amazing, incredible. What they do is that they go into cahoots with people that are in power in a society, and that's how they influence human society. They kind of get in with the people that control the narrative, the people that control the power, the money, the military, etc., and they do deals with them, and they make these people subject to them. And so,
the good ones will not intervene. It's like
the good ones aren't.
The big governments, how will they utilize the phenomena, even if they don't have full control of it? They can just make it up, even.
Mm-hmm.
Just things, even if things are happening. So there is a theory about that disclosure deception, that they will just piggyback on it. They don't have full control. Maybe they don't fully understand it, but they will utilize the existence of things in the sky for their own purposes.
I want to ask Andrew this. Do you think, and Enigma, maybe Imran as well, and everybody else in the space, do you think that the government know more about, when they say we don't know what this is, etc., in terms of we don't know what the craft is, we know they're probably lying about not knowing what the craft is, but do you think that they actually know, they're actually in cahoots with the entities that are coming down and doing all of this stuff? They actually know what they're doing, as in they know what the entities themselves are doing whenever they're doing their sort of scouting missions or whatever we think that they're doing.
I wouldn't say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you go.
I wouldn't say they're in cahoots. I would think more likely, just like with the Nazis. Yes, the Nazis were in the Theosophical Society, and they were trying to summon entities to gain some kind of military advantage. They obviously failed. So yes, they were basically rubbing the lamp of the genie's lamp, and the jinn didn't. They gave them a wish, but it wasn't exactly the wish they wanted. And that's always what in Platonics, in Plato and the stories about fairies, you never trust the jinn or never trust the fairies. The fairy tale is always about something negative. So even the governments are being deceived by the phenomenon, because the phenomenon, it does affect us in the long term psychologically. For example, it might want certain groups of people in society to believe they're literal extraterrestrials. So what it does, it goes to the case in South Africa. It appears to, or was it Zimbabwe? It appears to a bunch of kids at school, and they manifest in a biological-looking gray alien form with black eyes. So take the black eyes as a hint. That's probably not friendly. But then some of the students kind of conflate it, say, "Oh, they're here to help us," and others say, "Oh, it was terrifying." And they're trying to create a mystery intentionally, because they know when they create this incident, this case file, it ends up on the internet. And from there, it psychologically proliferates out to different groups of echo chambers, and then gets into popular culture, from anime to movies, whatever. So they've done that dozens of times over the centuries. There's a manifestation of the guy in Switzerland. What's his name? But he used to believe these were, blonde, blue-eyed Aryans. Was it Billy Myers? So there's some. Yes, Billy Meyer. Yes, and I do think some of the photos are definitely real. The videos, especially, not some of the photos, but he was trying to recreate it, and I think he got confused. People say he was faking it, but no, Billy Myers, I think, is something the CIA is keeping tabs on, definitely as a case file. But I think the CIA knows that the phenomenon is fucking with us. And they will go to certain weak-minded people or spiritually weak-minded, and they will create a mystery, specifically more the demonic entities. But in other cases, it's not always demonic. For example, some of the so-called apparitions of Mary at Zaytun in Egypt in 1968. Even the president, Sisi, declared it as some weird supernatural event. So their intelligence agencies were documenting it and trying to figure out what the hell was going on at that church. And there's a case at Fatima, Portugal. So these case files are categorized to be UAP events to the Pentagon. So they're not necessarily negative. Yes, not yet at least. We have to determine it over the long run and see how it has an effect on society.
I am an Egyptian. I was going to say this is a dangerous zone when you come down to the Zaytun Marian apparition. Because it opens the door to the lady.
But we don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we have to, like, the Vatican is careful to declare. They haven't declared that site as, like, that's Mary. They're still trying to investigate, figure out if there's any more evidence out there, but they haven't declared it as one. But they know that something weird happened there, and the Pentagon is aware. And even the 1933 case in Italy that David Grush brought up, the reason why they brought that specific case because it was in Italy and it was associated with the Vatican, and they want to emphasize that the phenomenon is connected with the Vatican in the sense that it's a spiritual phenomenon. Yeah. So they could have chose any other case. But David Grush specifically chose to use the Italy case.
I think he was also. I think he was looking for an ally there as well. Like, if we can get these guys opening up, they're big players. The Catholic Church, well known, well funded, has deep ties to pretty much every corporation. In essence, because of their abilities to fund and invest in things. So I think he was kind of looking for an ally there. Yeah, if we can get...
They're not as powerful as intelligence agencies in America. They have the data. See, they bear the burden of proof because the military does have the technology to detect this phenomenon. The Vatican really doesn't. No. But it does have ancient archives from Egypt and from Rome.
Yeah, and also they have historical data that they could share, which would move the ball along down the field, if you like. I want to go to Alt because
I think that's what Diane
Alt has been waiting for an absolute age to have their say. So I'm going to bring you in, Alt, and then I'm going to answer your question from my perspective, Maximum, if you don't mind, after. Yeah. So Alt, an absolute gentleman, sitting there quietly and patiently while we just knit that along. So thank you. Your turn, please, sir.
It's all good. It's because it came up when you discussed Elysium a whole while back. I just want to add something to that. You're kind of mentioning how you're kind of poo-pooing the idea because you don't see society moving to where we'd have societies kind of or the upper crust of society living outside the planet while the underlings kind of live in the planet. But Jeff Bezos, that's kind of his dream idea. He's really inspired by, I think his name is Kevin O'Neill, and one of the ideas he's really inspired by is this concept of the O'Neill cylinders. This essentially this whole design is designed it's come up with of these little cylinders, right, where you could basically design whole cities and they'd essentially be in lower Earth orbit. And they wouldn't need to be powered to actually move along because they'd just be following Earth's natural gravitational pull. But his whole idea and how it's sold is more utopian in the sense that, we don't destroy planets, we don't terraform planets, we won't extract planets, from planets to the point where we destroy them. We instead just live there and then we come out to the planet to actually explore it. But, that's the utopian vision, right? And billionaires don't really go for that all the time. So I was going to say that he's actually very much inspired by that idea. And sadly, many times it is the people with the big money that actually sort of dictate what ends up happening.
You remember when the billionaire evil villain used to want to have a mountain next to a volcano? That was where he would put his money, right? Now it's another planet. It's bizarre, isn't it?
It makes me think of Terence McKenna, right? When he had the conversation with the mushroom. Y'all know which one I'm talking about? He decides to speak about. No. So there's this one conversation that I think he was once, on shrooms, and he's actually communicating with the intelligence of the shroom, of the mushroom. Is what he believed was happening, and the subject of extraterrestrial intelligences got brought up, and he sort of asked, what makes that happen? Why do they come here or go wherever and all that sort of stuff? And the mushroom actually painted as a very negative picture. He was talking about how, you don't simply leave the planet because you want to. You leave the planet because you're forced to. What happens with most civilizations and why they become spacefaring is because what ends up happening on their planet is it turns into a madhouse. It gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. It gets a lot faster in terms of just how crazy it gets, and yeah, it's just a death trap. And eventually what they have to do is they just have to leave. But, unfortunately, that's their nature, right? It's their nature that created that society, that created that issue, that made them want to leave, that they made that planet untenable. And yeah, it's the need to escape is what pushes them to become spacefaring. And yeah, so what you just said there reminded me of that too.
No, that's a fair point. I do see. Can you imagine having a outside entity creating an environment that's conducive to what's suitable to them? Like I was mentioning about microbiology, that's essentially what we do to their world. In essence, we are the interdimensional being meddling with their affairs because it's conducive to our health. And that's like a base thing for us, right? Health is everything to us. So we'll do what it takes to. We don't want to disrupt microbiology too much because it's not conducive. So we only kind of like kind of like maintenance workers, right? Just maintaining that microbiotic microcosm of life inside us to keep us in our healthiest position, right? So that's food for thought, actually, Alt. How in a way, that's kind of what's going on here. This manipulation of from the top down. It's easier, right? If you've got this control mechanism, which is the elites of the world, why come to everybody? Just go to them and get them to do the necessary things that's conducive to your needs. I will answer your question, Maximum, and appreciate you jumping on, Alt. So, particularly from an Islamic world point of view, we do have what I would say is a good example from the time of the scholar, as we know him, Sheikh al-Islam, one of the main scholars of Islam, and his name is Ibn Taymiyyah. He wrote extensively about lots of different things, all topics, law, theology, other aspects, but in particular, he did give a lot of attention to the phenomena, and he wrote quite a few books, and even in his great corpus of religious rulings, the Majmu' al-Fatwa, he mentions extensively about the jinn phenomena, and so to pass what he was talking about in his time, he saw that the jinn themselves, or these devils, if you want to call them with a term that everyone here will understand, these devils, what they would do is they would identify people of influence and control. They would go to them and they would offer them power that nobody else would have. And one example of that was one of these Sufi masters, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, they're the equivalent in that time of the Hollywood of today. These were the famous people that the general public saw as close to God. And what a lot of the time led to them thinking they were close to God is that they did supernatural things that normal human beings couldn't do. And it was associated by the public, the general public, that, these are holy men. Why? Because they're performing what is similar to miracles. In reality, it was the phenomena that were doing these tricks on behalf of the Sufi master, so that he could use that knowledge gap, because they didn't know it was the jinn, they thought it was God doing it through them, to create followers, and that's what they did. And it was a corruption within a religious perspective. They corrupted the true religious understanding that was sent by the prophets. So all prophets came with the same message, believe in one God, follow his laws, and fear a day that's coming where you're going to be judged for what you did in this life, in essence, right? And what they had was they created a new understanding where if you listen to me, as in the one who's performing these supernatural displays, if you follow me, you'll be saved. You don't have to worry about doing good works. You don't have to worry about anything. Just follow me and you'll be okay. And that's not what the prophets came in. So the manipulation aspect of the phenomena was to get them to become disbelievers. That was their end goal from our perspective, and from what Sheikh al-Islam identified in that time. So they were doing supernatural tasks for certain individuals in order to misguide many. This calls to a particular verse in the Quran, and this verse says that on the Day of Judgment, God will bring forward the jinn kind, and they are numerous. In fact, it's all the scholars agree that the jinn, they have more children than human beings do. So they are numerous in number. So they're going to be a great number. They'll be brought forward on the Day of Judgment, and God will say to them directly that you, jinn kind, have misled the majority of mankind. Vast majority of mankind being misled by you. A group of mankind will step forward and say, yes, some of us made use of others, and we have now reached the term you have appointed to us. This means that on that day, there will be a group of humans who say, yeah, it's true. We had a mutually beneficial relationship. We made use of each other. These guys, and this is my opinion, Max, just to get to the crux of it, is that this is a mutually beneficial agreement between these creatures and the human beings. What the humans get out of it, I don't think is a direct access to the technology, but rather a controlled access that, you know, we'll let you learn about this and we'll help you with discoveries in this area of science. Yeah, if you allow us to if you allow us to tell you what you should do in regard to this, that, and the other, and you can see the change from a non-secular, more religious society of the early 1900s till now, where we've got a secular society. And I don't want to be rude, and forgive me, anyone in the room, like, this isn't an attack on an individual, but rather I see a lot of the changes in society as a victim change. We are the victims of these people selling us out with regard to the way society should be structured, selling us out to our base desires by making us a people who are constantly reminded about our sexual proclivities, encouraged through advertising and through our modern day mystics. The Sufi master of today is the Hollywood, right? And just like it was the Sufi master back in the day who was associated with the phenomena and the cult-like practices and obedience to these creatures. And by the way, I didn't get into it, but some of the things that they made these Sufi masters do in order to show their allegiance with the creature were abhorrent, were Epstein-level crisis, where they were doing things and the jinn would bring people to them. They would kidnap people and bring it to the Sufi master for his pleasure. This happened. This is written in our books. It's historical from 13th century. So we have this idea of children being abducted and taken to people for their pleasure by the phenomena way before the Epstein Island claims that came out recently. Anyway, so the actual technology is a gift and not something that belongs to them. So, okay, we'll let you do this and we'll help you with that, and we'll make you the superpower of the day. So we give you the technology, we're going to give you the weaponry and so on to keep you in position. All you've got to do is make society go in this way. And we see the lobby of the corporate Five Eyes grouping that whatever they say goes. Behind every single McDonald's across the Middle East all the way to the Far East, McDonald's, the burger company, is McDonnell Douglas. And that's something that's true. The corporate America and the corporate worldview that's been pushed on everybody, that you have to have these type of values if you want to be part of this business conglomerate, is enforced by force. It's not by accident. And that power that they've been given, and this, and I think a lot of it exists for the simple fact that people don't know. I think America is very good at making people think that they have something that they don't. In it quite often is the case, and this is a tactic in military circles anyway. You know, mislead. You know, play sleight of hand and mislead your enemy into thinking you're doing one thing or you're able to do one thing, so you don't have to do it. Right? If everyone thinks that you've got knockout power of Mike Tyson, most people aren't going to challenge you because you can knock them out like Mike Tyson. As an example, yeah. I know I've waffled on a little bit there, Maximum, but I hope the point I was trying to make was clear, that I don't think that it's a technology that are given to the human beings. Rather, it's a phenomena that they're allowed to exploit by the phenomenon itself. Yeah. And in exchange for that is to lead mankind down a particular way of behaving and doing things. Yeah. And it sounds very strange, but like we manipulate microbiology to do things that are conducive to our health, I think that the phenomena manipulates mankind to do things that's conducive to what they need.
It's the same relationship that you have with the elites and the rest of society, where they will manipulate people's opinions. They will manufacture, certain geopolitical sort of conditions to get the public to do what like to do their own bidding, and it's maintained through this information asymmetry, and that's why the elite will never get the sort of technology that the jinn have or the UAPs have, because the whole point is that to maintain that information asymmetry, also to maintain that advantage, you need to maintain the information asymmetry. It's as simple as that, and it is the art of war, and will be the art of war for within every single sort of system. I think kind of what you're pointing at, Andrew, and I really like the point, is that the most effective way to to take control of a system is literally to start with what is upstream and what is most foundational. Because it's as simple as if you can take control of the most foundational, the most influential part in a system, everything else is sort of affected by that, and everything catches a cold downstream. I think there's that's what it is. I think it's that if the rich catch a cold or something like that, everybody catches the well. So if the rich start sneezing, everybody catches a cold or something like that to that sort of effect. But I think that's sort of what you're hinting at, is that they like to go anywhere where there's power, influence. So wherever you'll find influential people in influential systems, you'll find some of the worst people doing these sorts of.
I will say this as well, Maximum. This is why when the Muslims were the superpower, especially throughout the Middle Ages, we were the ones who were targeted by them, and that's why we have the stories, okay? And I think that America is the superpower of today, and the Five Eyes are the superpower of today. They have the laboratories that are, effectively at the cutting edge of everything. And when we had, we have reports dating all the way back to then, that the people who were working on the technology of the time, which were the alchemists, they had interactions with the phenomena. And much like we have stories of a living conscious craft, and people have even gone as far to say that the craft communicated with them, an actual craft communicated with them, we have in our documents, historical documents, that plant life interacted with alchemists, talking to them, telling them how to extract the beneficial compounds inside the plant life. So process me this way so that you can get access to a thing that will do this, right? It sounds so bizarre, but the people who were at the cutting edge in them days had strange and phenomenal experiences. The people who were the Hollywood of the day had strange experiences and were recruited, right? So we have these two control mechanisms in the Middle Ages, where the Sufi masters and the alchemists, and both of them were being targeted by the phenomena to become followers of the phenomena, so that they could be recognized for their scientific acumen. Oh, he was a great scientist, look what he discovered. In reality, he was told where to look by something else. And then you have the phenomena helping these masters look like they're super close to God because they're able to float in the sky, and in reality they were just doing so under the command of another being, the devil, so to speak. So if we take that and we just upgrade it to modern day today, and we look at America and what's going on in these labs, these are just the same, in essence, the same stories happening, just different mechanisms. So it's, rather than it being a plant talking, this is a piece of technology they found that fell out of the sky when they detonated a bomb, or something that landed near Maelstrom, or wherever it might be, right? And then there's people saying that they're getting downloads, or we're being told to look into this area, and these downloads have helped develop, quote unquote, allegedly AI, right? So there's a lot to unpack, I know, and I'm talking a lot, and probably quite a few of you got things to say. We're going to be packing up shortly after this, but I want to, because I've said so much, I want to open up to let other people respond, because not everyone may agree with what we said. I know we see you're back, John.
Yes.
But before we go to you, John, and hear your story, and after your story, we are going to close up. I want to go to all, push your hands up, and I want to go to Enigma, Imran, you, Maximum, and then we'll finish with you, John. And also anyone else in the comments, in the thing there, if you want to add anything or you don't agree with something, we'd like to invite you to talk, because we are going to be finishing soon. So if you've got anything to say, we don't mind. We want everyone to have a chance to speak. So we go to you, Alt, and then we're going to go through everyone, and then we'll end up closing the room for tonight. Go, Alt.
Oh, I think mine's going to be it's going to go in completely different directions. If you're going to close that, probably not a good question for today, but I was going to ask you a question, or just because you have knowledge, both of y'all, or all of y'all, I hear a lot about the jinn, but I think I saw a Muslim Bank video where he mentioned how there's actually a whole bunch of other things that came around before the jinn, like the bin and the hind, and I've just never heard about them. So just curious to learn more about that.
Okay.
That's a big subject, so we can talk about that.
This is an easy answer for me. So the hin and the bin are part of mythology that predates Islam. And this is not confirmed by the Prophet, peace be upon him, or by the Quran, or by the traditions of the Prophet and his companions. Yeah. However, it is the companion, one of the companions, or two of the companions, who actually mention the hin and the bin, and they mention it in relation to it being a predated. So, if you like, that's a folk tale, the hin and the bin, whereas the jinn isn't a folk tale from our perspective. The jinn are real and have been mentioned by God, and they're and as we can see, right, the actualization of the jinn is manifesting today in this UAP UFO phenomena, and it did in the Middle Ages as spirits and the mediums were in contact with them here in the Europe. When Europe started becoming more of a superpower, we started to see the effects of them. When Germany was a superpower, we started seeing the effects of them there. Now America and the West is the superpower, if you like, so we're seeing it there. But the hin and the bin is much more is definitely placed more in the folklore side of things. Although, if you're interested, Alt, I can have a bit more of a lengthy conversation on that with you another time, or if you inbox me, we can talk about it. No problem, bruv. But yeah, that's just to give a simple answer to it. We'll go to you now, Enigma.
That's interesting. I never heard of this. How do you pronounce it? Hin and bin?
Yeah, the hin and the bin. So what it says is that the hin and the bin, I think that the jinn, according to the folklore, and I think one of our brothers, he's not in here now, but we did have one of the Egyptian brothers. He might be a bit more aware of it. But effectively what allegedly happened was the hin and the bin were a creature or another type of creation, and the jinn destroyed them. They beat them up and they basically eradicated them, according to the folklore, and then they became the prevailing creatures. So they're kind of like you have like humans, and then you would have another creature beside us, let's say Neanderthals, and then another type of human, and then we, the human beings, beat the Neanderthals up and got rid of them. I think that's what they say, something similar to that. But again, it's completely associated with mythology rather or folklore rather than in religious doctrine, if you like. You will find this mentioned in Quranic exegesis by a number of scholars. They do mention this when you go through the origins of humanity and before humanity. Generally, the scholars bring this up, but they do place it in a unconfirmed, unreliable section. So it's kind of like looked at as this is mythology. This is what it says. There's no evidence whatsoever to support it. Yes,
it sounds like a more Aryan linguistic kind of origin, like a local kind of tribal name for something supernatural.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Like in Japan, I studied a lot of Japanese, and I learned about yokais and kamis, and sometimes the Japanese say, "Oh, they're different. Yokais and kamis are different. One likes to be in a toilet, and the other one likes to be over here." But if you look at the principle and the original origins of those words, it basically just means spirit. Now, the thing is, in Japan, they take it so literal sometimes. It's like, there's a yokai for your phone. There's a yokai for your TV. There's a yokai for this or whatever. The point is, spirits can get into objects, and they can manipulate the object. That's all what the original Buddhist priests and Shinto priests were trying to say. But over time, Japan just kind of said, they're like separate entities, but in reality, it's the same phenomenon as the poltergeist.
And can you send me some stuff about this? Because when you associated that one likes to be in the toilet, this is actually one of the.
Oh, I was bringing the jinn.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the things that's said about them, that they hang around.
Japan has something similar.
Yeah, bizarrely. Anyway, Enigma, anything else you want to add, bro? Because we're going to be starting to wrap up now.
I would like to also bring up, I don't know if you know Jimmy Akin, but he's kind of like a Catholic scholar. But he always likes to emphasize, we shouldn't just assume, if religious, that everything is demonic. Because there is yin and yang. There is good and evil. So there are good entities. We just have to use our common sense to distinguish when it's a good entity and when it's not. So if you think, your dead grandma is trying to talk to you, but all of a sudden it throws a book behind you, that's probably not your dead grandma. Just use some common sense, guys.
I like that. I appreciate that, Enigma. And perhaps one of these days we'll do a space where we talk about the positive stories about the jinn. And there are many. In fact, there's more than people probably think. And they are pretty cool. Although some of them, I will say that I think in their in their way of viewing things, they can be very intolerant. Like if you do something that they don't like, they will take you out. And we have evidence of this from our books. And I'll share it another day. But it sounds like that's a bad one because it's killing a human being, but that human is doing something wrong. So anyway, interesting. Imran, you're next, bro. I think Imran may have fallen asleep, bro. Maximum.
I'm just really interested to see what John says because I think last time John tried to say something, his connection was taken up by the UAPs. So I'm hoping that this time around they let him, give the information that he wants to sort of relate to the rest of us because it's really interesting. So
yeah, definitely. They nuked his signal, bro. Come on, John, you're up now, bro.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
No, you're most welcome, sir. As you were, carry on with your story, bud.
Quickly, I work in New Jersey at a facility overnight, and I have been seeing these things since December, flying in the sky. If somebody can't hear me, please let me know. So finally, around late March, I had enough, and I climbed up pretty high at night at my facility to try to find out exactly what these things are, because a lot of times down by me, they're only 300 feet in the air. They're not very high. So one was coming. I waited up there quite a long time. One was coming. I caught pretty decent footage of it. But the concerning part was what took place afterwards. Was I went down into my office, climbed down, and the thing buzzed my location for 14 to 15 minutes. It came back with a friend and threw up 2 spotlights in my facility. Now, that scared me. Like, I was legitimately shaken. And I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'3", 270. I'm not tiny. So I was pretty scared. And the next evening, my facility is backed up to a large park, very large, with a double fence in between. One fence on the park, one fence on my facility side. And usually police patrol that area. I have to go back there twice an evening to perform a task. At my last task for that evening at 4:50 a.m., I went back there. I saw lights in the park. I said, okay, it's the cops. Cool. Makes you feel a little better, right? So at that point, I proceeded to go. And once I got within like 100 feet of the fence line, I realized it was not the police. What happened next? Just to preface this, I was never a UFO guy, UAP guy. This has changed my life forever, and I'll probably never be the same. I don't know if it's for better or worse yet. But this thing moved through the trees with the speed and agility of what would make a cheetah blush. It looked like a small ball of light initially, but then when it got up to the fence line, this thing was 7 feet tall. Its body was amorphous. You didn't see arms and legs. It was hovering off the ground. It was silent. And
what color?
Sterile whitish blue, hospital color, think hospital sterile, right? Very, very bright, blinding. And it reminded me of the surface of the sun, the way the body would spike and move very erratically with no rhyme or reason. And up top sat.
Can I say something? That's exactly what the Pentagon paper states. You can read it. I'll send you to it.
That'd be great. I really appreciate it. And up top sat 2 rectangles, one inside of the other with depth. And it was looking back and forth at the ground, moving. And like I said, I was looking up at this thing, and I'm like 6'3", 6'4", with boots on. I was probably even taller. And I was looking up at it. It then saw me. And it backed up to my position. It didn't cross the fence. So I went palms up. And because I knew, like, I watched this thing move. There was no way I was going to get away from it. And if it wanted to overcome me, the only thing I had to grab onto was the rectangles. And they were like a glowing whitish metal with specks in them. And I backed up very slowly, around 12 to 15 feet, and slid behind a building and peeked in between the 2 buildings. And it was still there, kind of like, where'd you go, sort of thing. And then I, believe it or not, my big ass bear crawled all the way into the 3rd building, and I locked myself in. I waited for 20 minutes. I kept track of time. I didn't.
What shape did you say it was?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
What shape did you say
the
it was?
body itself
Was it morphing?
Yeah, it was amorphous. Like it didn't have any like. It was like liquid glass.
I mean, did it have like a humanoid shape?
No
or was it
humanoid
more
shape.
abstract?
It was abstract. It was very fluid in nature, spiking. It would spike and move, and it was beautiful. But when I did see it, I do have to say that I felt dread wash over me, unlike anything I've ever felt in my life.
An experience like that too.
Like,
Did you try this? Did you communicate?
no, I thought I was going to die. I'll be honest with everybody here. I thought my life was over. I was like, there goes my wife and kids. I'll never see them again. So
when I say communicate, I mean specifically signal like with a flashlight.
No,
That's
I
what
had
did,
my
and
phone.
I got a response.
I had my phone in my pocket, but I was so scared to reach into my pocket because the thing's eyeing me up. It's staring at me. We're maybe 90 feet apart now, 80 feet. And there was.
But it wasn't a very clear human.
No,
shape.
not at all.
It was just more block.
It was a gelatinous.
It's like the jellyfish.
The body was a gelatinous mess of sterile white light that would just flow and move like the ocean or the surface of the sun. But the rectangle up top was tangible. Like if you wanted, you probably could have grabbed it. I don't suggest that we would, but you could have. If like the thing tried to overcome you, that's what immediately came to my mind. I'm like, okay, this is the only thing I could grab on this thing.
Sorry, I know you mentioned that it didn't have arms or legs, but did it have a head or anything like that, or shoulders?
The rectangle up top was the head. It looked like as if that was the viewing device, whatever it was. It was scanning the ground with its head, back and forth, like methodically looking. And then it looked up and it saw me and immediately floated. Like this thing was maybe 6-7 inches off the ground, made no noise, didn't disturb anything on the grass, the leaves. So it was March, so it was still leafy. It wasn't spring yet, really.
Was it kind of breezy out? Did the wind get very still?
Everything got still.
Yes, that's what happened.
Everything got still. And
so in my case, when I was summoning an entity or UAP, I was using a flashlight over a couple weekends for the experiment, and it responded with the third flash on the same night. And then before the entity decided to appear as a massive, big red orb ball of light, about 200 feet away, about 100 feet high, it produced a gust of wind, and then everything went silent, and that's when it manifested on me.
That's exactly what happened. So I locked myself in the building for 20 minutes. It came out. I peeked my head out. I didn't see it. I step out. It's still there. So at that point, I said, hello.
Did it produce a boom noise?
Zero noise. Nothing. That's what was really unsettling.
Okay. Mine produced multiple like mysterious loud booming noises, and there are definitely case files that UAPs can produce literally loud sonic booms.
I'm sure.
So far, Lou Elizondo hasn't mentioned it yet. I'm surprised, but I think he will in the future. That's another attribute. But yeah, when I heard when you hear the noise, it's an experience.
Right, I'm sure it's like it reverberates through your body. I'm sure.
Sorry to interrupt again, John. I know you're trying to tell your story late. Did you hear is there any sound associated with it? Did you have any sounds or any screeching or anything squeaky or whistling sound?
Quiet as a church mouse.
Gotcha.
Nothing. When I tell you that I might as well have been in a soundproof room, that was it. Like I heard nothing from this thing. I stopped hearing the engines at my facility.
That's interesting, yeah. Because when I heard the sonic kind of like booming noises, it was changing direction, but that was before it chose to manifest to me. But when the gust of wind came, everything went silent, like the birds stopped. It was at night, but there was like owl noises and winds, a gust. It went very still. And Linda Moulton Howe and others have noticed this very similar pattern with the phenomenon. It electromagnetically somehow can affect nature at a certain distance and affect how.
Excuse me.
It's hard to describe it. It's electromagnetic in nature. But yeah, when I did it, I was intentionally trying to signal to it, and it actually responded 3 times with a flash of white light. Did you have any flashes of white light?
No, but what I did experience the following evening, and for like a week or two after that, were, and I have video footage of it, orbs that were 5 to 6 feet off the ground at my facility. I had a...
Outside.
Right? Not in, they didn't come in the buildings, no. Okay. I had a blue orb which I got within like 40 feet of. I have great video footage of it. A yellow orb. And then there was a triangle orb in the park. Triangle. It was a triangular formation. And I saw it. The yellow one was pretty brazen, not aggressive, but like I came out of a building and I caught it right out of my peripheral. And I turned and I looked at it. I said, what are we doing here? You know, I was like, what's going on? And it just sat there and hovered and floated. It wasn't aggressive. The blue one scared me a little bit because within like 6 or 7 seconds of shutting it, of filming it, it blinked out. Boom, gone. And you hear me on video go, oh, okay. I walked away. But for weeks after that, even now still, I feel a little uncomfortable. I feel watched a little bit.
Did you have any poltergeist activity months?
Nothing at my house. No, nothing.
Okay, that's good.
Nothing, but
yeah, you don't want to bring it inside your house.
No, absolutely not.
Because what people don't understand is these UAPs, they're basically pure energy. They're electromagnetic, but they can de-densify into an aura, and this aura can literally go inside your house and affect objects.
Yes.
So that's like, and in Japan they teach us a lot, and in Christianity, Islam too. So that's what we refer to as the jinn or a demonic entity. But it could be a good entity, but you have to judge it by its behavior and actions. Like if it's causing you a lot of anxiety and fear and causing you to have a divorce or something like that, yeah, it's probably something evil. But at the same time, you can control the entity to some degree by shutting it off, in the sense that it's trying to feed off the confliction between your curiosity and your fear. Especially with men. Women tend to shut off really quick. They know it instinctively, some women. But other people, on the other hand, are trapped in the addiction of curiosity, which derives from the word sin. And they want the entity to keep manifesting, and that's how it builds its energy up. It starts out discreet and soft, and then it starts to build more and more. But the last thing you need is inside your house. But outside, that's fine. It can't do anything to harm you, unless you did what I did and you try to signal it. You don't want to psionically connect with these entities, because some of them, they really are demonic. And they're 50% are, 50% aren't. So it's a 50-50 test.
So Enigma, quickly just to interject. But Muslims, we believe that the jinn, are not allowed to speak or interact with human beings. So usually the ones that do are usually the bad ones, is what Muslims say, and I think Andrew would probably.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know if that large entity was there for me, because it was scanning the ground, and what it was scanning was something that was integral to my facility, and it was probably 4 feet, 5 feet.
Well,
very, very interesting.
Think about your situational awareness, like what you should ask if anyone else has had any unusual experiences, because sometimes the phenomenon is something bigger that's happening over a whole town, and people don't realize that. This is where Stranger Things, the TV show, Netflix show, came up with the idea. For example, in not Hawkins, Indiana, but it was Kokomo, Indiana. Right. That's where mysterious booms repeatedly happened over this town, and people saw these orbs of light appearing. It actually got the police's attention, the sheriff and all that, reached the History Channel. And then there was another case over Clintonville, Wisconsin, and Linda Moulton Howe and others reported this. It's called the mystery boom phenomenon, and the FBI got involved. And then repeatedly over the same town, just sonic boom that shook the ground over a period of like 2 or 3 weeks off and on. And then people claim that they might saw something, entities. Sometimes it could be a larger phenomenon happening over that area, and it just happens part of the phenomenon is targeting you, but it also could be targeting other people. For example, the Arizona UAP event that happened in the 1980s, was it?
It was terrifying.
You want to stay away from them because they're pure. Remember, pure energy means plasma, and they're metallic. And they can melt down that metal and de-densify it and re-solidify. So that's why they say in the Bible and ancient texts that gods are very scary, even the good ones, the good angels or bad demons. They're very scary because our physical body, when they say shit your pants or die of fright, it's not an exaggeration. There are case files where people, if the entity gets build up too much energy around your brain literally cannot physically handle that much energy, and you'll just go psychotic. But luckily, there are good entities that are preventing that.
I will say this, John. if we may, because of how late it is, I think I need to do my night prayer, and it's gone quite over time. We've just had someone else join, John Bell, and you've by the way, I've inboxed you, John. Appreciate you sharing that story, and it would be nice to have you come back another day, and you as well, Enigma, and just hear a bit more about your experiences and how you and I'll share mine as well. I don't mind, and we'll do that. John Bell, do you want to quickly say something, because we are ending the? I don't know if you wanted to say something to John or something. So, if you don't mind, John.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Bo.
All right. Yeah, you guys have got different experiences than what I'm used to. I'm used to multiple contacts every night that I go outside. All I got to do is go out the door. They're there. A lot of the stuff that people are seeing around the United States and a lot of the videos, I mean, we got the booger spears and all this aluminum balls floating around. I mean, that stuff is nothing like anything that looks alien or even really sophisticated to me. I mean, I've been interacting with an orb now the size of a basketball that can literally go in front of me 20 feet away, straight up to a cloud 3,000 foot away in less than a second. Now, I've never seen any video of anybody having an orb that is exactly that quick, but the other side of the coin is I don't use infrared to record it. It's the only one that doesn't require it. There's other orbs around. You won't be able to see them unless they want to be seen, or if you turn on the infrared, which they run like crazy. And there's a couple of scientists working on the orbs now that have realized that these things are real. I'm like, duh. Well, I could have told you that. I've been doing it for years. They thought it was a big deal. They captured a bug next to an orb. Well, I did better than that. I captured a bat eating a bug next to the orb in front of the tree I was filming. So you can't make that up. And,
are you the guy who had the viral video shining a laser up at the orb?
Yep.
At night?
I shine laser in the air, not necessarily for the UFOs, but for the benefit of the orbs.
I think I used your footage for... I'm looking at it right now. I think I used your footage for a YouTuber Suspect Sky who makes compilations, and he had me compile a whole bunch of videos trying to find the most authentic. And I think I remember running across yours, and I thought yours was pretty legit. And I think we added that to our compilation. Well, the channel's called Suspect Sky.
I also got very close UFOs. I've got multiple ones that are just a few thousand feet away. I've got one that's 1,000 feet away, right over my head, probably cooking my brain like a pancake. But the video was about 4 minutes long, and it's in detail enough you can see the energy swirling around underneath this thing.
Yeah, some are not pure evil. I mean, the thing is that the attributes of a negative entity and a positive entity, they're actually going to be the same, the fluidy metallic plasma state, but it's their actions that determine their intent. But most cases, you're right. They just stay their distance, or they kind of float around, but they don't want to freak you out. But in other cases, there are ones that are benevolent, and they do want to, really mess your brain up.
Well, the one in particular I interact with all the time, I had about 6 videos of it the whole entire year, and I knew what it was, and I identified it, and I didn't see it that often. Then all of a sudden one night, the thing is here to stay. It shows up. I mean, it'll come when I call it, it comes. And my buddy was out there in the back of the truck with me, made the comment that, hey, well, maybe we should, we can make an EMP and we can electrify it and capture the thing. Well, that didn't go so well. The very next day, it struck the side of I've got a 2.5 ton military truck that I film out of the back because it doesn't shake. It's real heavy and stable. And it's high off the ground. It keeps me out of the mosquitoes. Well, anyway, this little basketball-sized orb shook the entire truck. Struck it and shook it. I videoed it. I didn't know I had it on video at first, but that answered all the questions that, I had to do with, just can't expect to go out there and capture this thing because it's not going to be possible and it's not going to work out good.
Just had a question about one of your videos, the one where you're shining laser up. I'm seeing something streaking by. Are those just meteors, or is that the UFO?
No, I've only captured 2 meteors since I've been filming, and the very fast objects. The very fast objects, if you slow them down, you can actually see the dome, or they're cylindrical shaped. They come by at incredible speed, and that's another thing that I don't see a lot of videos on is the fast objects. I'm like, really, why would you not show that? And I've got numerous videos a couple of months ago of them flying out of portals right directly in my view of the scope. And they're like, here we are. This is what we look like. This is how we travel. We're coming through a hole here. And it's not like a wormhole that just sits there the whole time. I'm pretty sure they're creating it because they're exiting out of one also when they disappear. So I don't just have the beginning of the UFO flying by. I have the end of it too, which a lot of people don't have that. They've only got some little object blinking in the sky, and that's all they got.
You got some good footage. Too bad it's black and white, but naturally you're taking it at night, so obviously it has some.
Well, actually,
but still not bad.
Well, actually, it's in high definition, and the higher definition works better than the color does, especially with the speed frame rate and stuff. If you're going with color, you're just going to see a big ass blur going across the sky, and I don't have to deal with that. My frame rate is very quick. The detail is high definition, and it's digital. You can enhance it. You can turn AI loose on it. You can do all kinds of stuff.
You're sure you're not pointing to an airplane, right? And the laser not an airplane.
Yeah, I got airplane. I film airplanes all the time. Yeah.
That's not what you're recording. It looks like something you're recording there's one more that's really slow. And there's another one passing by.
Yeah, there's several of them real slow. I've captured
I'm sorry to do this, guys. I know, you're having a wonderful conversation about the crowd, but we've been going for 2.5 hours now. Here in the UK, it's quite late. So, John Bell, it's such a shame you came towards the end of the space. And
no worries. I see the invitation.
Please come another time. I'll message you next time we're on, and I'd just like to hear more of your things, share some of your videos as well. It'd be nice to see them and go over them. It's wonderful data, and it's just nice to see other people's experiences. We'll also have you back as well, Enigma.
Yeah, just help yourself. There's a video you guys can use. Just get it. Give me credit for it's all I ask. And,
definitely will do, John. Definitely will do. And I'll share you with some of the videos we've got that my family have caught of the things going on around near where we live, and you can let us know what you guys think. So thanks to everyone who joined in today. We had such a wide variety of people come up and speak, and it was real fascinating to hear all the different points of views. And we'll be doing this again probably next Friday, but we may have a random one over the weekend. So John, thanks for coming. The other John as well, I think he's gone. Alt and all the others. There's quite a few people, a few Johns today. Kiki, Tariq, Sadie, Khalid, I hope I said that right. The Anon, Joe, Isaac, and Enigma Imran. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I'm really sorry to cut you guys off, but it is late, and I've got some bits to do for our knockout. So join us again next week. It'll probably be next Friday as well. Otherwise, if we do a random over the weekend, we'll invite you guys to join us. John Bell, wonderful story, Enigma. Nice to hear your point of view and your detailed research. It's really fascinating. Maximum, thank you for keeping us on the on our toes and asking us the right questions. And Imran, Kiki, everyone else, thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend, and if you don't hear from us, we'll be back here next week. Take care, you all, and may the blessings of God be with you and the guidance of God be with you. So be safe, peace be upon all of you, and take care of yourselves. Thank you very much.
Man,